Thanks for listening to the Herd Podcast. Be sure to catch us live every weekday from 12 to 3 Eastern, 9 to noon Pacific on Fox Sports Radio and FS1. Find your local station for the Herd at foxsportsradio.com or stream us live every day on the iHeartRadio app by searching Herd.
Now let's get this party started.
You're listening to Fox Sports Radio.
The Herd, wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1. The Herd sponsored by Firestone. Complete auto care, keeping your car running newer and longer. Joy Taylor's joining me on a Friday. All fired up. We are officially in football season. I can talk football now for 6 months every single day, and I love it, Joy. And I know your brother played in the NFL. You know your football, college, and pro. It's a great time for us right now.
It is. Good morning. Jason's actually he's in Canton right now for Hall of Fame weekend. He'll be joining Shannon.
That'll be great. So let me start with this. I've been saying this about Lamar Jackson. I rushed home to watch him, just like I used to rush home to watch Tim Tebow. And I've said Lamar Jackson's a more talented version of Tim Tebow, and all I get is pushback. All I get is pushback. And I say, no, you watch what's going to happen. Baltimore and Denver were proud franchises with Super Bowls, getting very frustrated with their head coach on the hot seat. Both guys were overdrafted. Both guys are projects, not prospects. Tim Tebow was a project. He was never a prospect. Lamar Jackson's a project. He's not Sam Darnold. He's not Josh Rosen. You watched them last night. He's not even close. He's not even close. First of all, first 2 times he gets the ball, he scrambles. Third one, hands off, 3 and out. Next time he gets the ball, second drive, scrambles. Took him until a 6th play until he threw a pass. By the way, it was 0 for 3 to the left side, 3 for 3 to the right side. So right now he's way more comfortable throwing to one side of the field and running to the other side of the field. There was way more bad than good. He's not close to RG3 at this point. He's not. Forget Flacco. RG3's not as good as Flacco. Lamar's not even close to RG3, and it won't matter. It never mattered with Tebow. People forget how bad Tebow was. Tebow was terrible. He was on 4th string in Denver. They still put him in first year. Why? Because he was fun. He was new. It's a proud fan base. The coach was on the hot seat. They tried something new. They went into a losing streak, and let's put Tebow out there, and Tebow was terrible. By the way, Tebow was terrible his second year, but it didn't matter. Because you were crazy in love with a guy. Fan is short for fanatic. It's like Donald Trump. If you like Donald Trump, his approval rating right now is like 50%. I mean, it's a lie a day. Doesn't matter. People like him. If you love somebody, your kids, your president, your backup quarterback, you don't care about data. You don't care about it. When Tim Tebow was tearing up the world, he, like Lamar, was a first-round pick. I was like, he's not ready to play quarterback in the NFL. Saturday Night Live did a skit, funniest thing Saturday Night Live's ever done that's related to sports, and it was the most honest and accurate thing ever done in the history of Saturday Night Live in sports. Do you remember this?
Here's the thing, okay? If we're going to keep doing this, you guys got to meet me halfway out there. I mean, let's face it. It's not a good week if every week I, the son of God, have to come in, drop everything, and bail out the Denver Broncos in the 4th quarter, okay? I'm a busy guy.
So, wait, you're only helping in the 4th quarter?
Yeah. Yeah. Have you watched the game film, Tim, of the first half? I mean, come on, 3 for 16? You know, I could throw better, and I'm 2010 years old, huh?
Oh, God, Tebow was awful. And it didn't matter. Matt Prater, the kicker, and the defense was winning games. It didn't matter. You didn't like the coach. You didn't like the starter. You wanted something new, flashy, and fun. Listen, Lamar Jackson, with the best offensive coach arguably in college football, as a 3-year starter, completed less than 60% of his throws last year. That's as a 3-year starter with Bobby Petrino. In 5 of his games last year as a 3-year starter with Bobby Petrino, an NFL coach coaching in college. In 5 of his games, he completed 15 passes or less. As a 3-year starter in college with Bobby Petrino, not even in the best conference in the country, 6 times he rushed for as many or more touchdowns than he passed for in a game. Lamar Jackson's not ready to play in the NFL as a starting quarterback. He's not as good as RG3. He's not close. He looked nervous. The best moments were when he ran, just like college. He's a project. He's not a prospect. He was overdrafted. He was a 2nd or a 3rd round guy that you give 1.5 to 2 years of development, and then I think he can, become something. And everybody's going, Colin, that's not fair. It's totally fair. Folks, think about how big Tebow got without Twitter, without Instagram. I checked on Twitter last night. Lamar was pretty awful. And all I heard was, we got a new starting quarterback in the NFL. Welcome to 2018. He's not even close to RG3. Nobody was tweeting about RG3 last night. In fact, I call RG3 RJ7. He's on like his 7th version of RG3. Look at Baltimore's schedule. Now, September, they're going to win some football games, but you get into that October and November, and I see the Saints and Carolina and Pittsburgh and, at Tennessee. November, here comes Lamar. And by the way, what's funny about this, stats didn't matter with Tebow. They didn't matter. He'd be 6 for 17. Back then, there was email. I'd have 5,000 emails. He is the next Tom Brady. People were comparing him to like Brady, and I'm like, he's 6 for 17. Denver with Tebow and Lamar Jackson with Baltimore have a lot in common. You got a coach in a hot seat. You got huge rivals in your division pulling away at the time from the Broncos, pulling away now from Baltimore. A popular college quarterback gets overdrafted. I mean, Tim Tebow was really overdrafted. Lamar Jackson was slightly overdrafted. You have a fan base getting restless, and here you have a young quarterback who runs right now better than he throws, and he's new, flashy, and fun, and he's hope. He is hope. And now, add Twitter and stir. Lamar Ball is what we may be calling him by November. Things now just don't make sense. Stats don't matter. Data doesn't matter. We like who we like. And now it's just amplified, adding social media to it. The tsunamis and the avalanches. Just pray that you never end up at the bottom of the mountain with an avalanche or a tsunami on Twitter. Of course Lamar's not close. I've never thought he was close. That's why I keep calling him a project. I never call him a prospect. Sam Darnold's a prospect. Okay, Baker Mayfield's a prospect. They'll play this year, and they'll be able to move the chains. They'll be able to go. No. This is a project. This kid should not play for a year and a half. Maybe next year, end of the year, put him in, have some fun. But, man, last night, as predicted, on Twitter, I'm already seeing, yeah, man. I'm like, are you watching this game? Are you? Joy, let me just ask you, did he look like he was ready to start in the NFL?
No, he looked very raw.
Raw is what sushi is.
You know what I didn't like I think it was in the third quarter where he went for that run that everyone's flipping out about? It really looked like RG3. Like, I'm like, slide.
Yeah, he got popped. Lamar got popped his first time he went for a run.
I don't want to see another RG3 situation, but unfortunately, that's who's mentoring him there.
All right. Okay, this weekend, they're calling it the most talented Hall of Fame class ever. Randy Moss, Brian Urlacher, Terrell Owens, and Ray Lewis. Just 4 of them. They're saying it's the greatest Hall of Fame class ever. Of course, T.O. is not going to show up. Never forget this about movies. A good, solid movie can be ruined by a bad ending. And, by the way, a good, solid movie can be called excellent with a great ending. Usual Suspects. It's a good movie. Great ending. People now say, great movie. Not really. Great ending. T.O. and Randy Moss had a ton in common. They really did. They both played about 218 games. They both played for 5 teams. Their receiving yards, receiving touchdowns, teams, games, almost identical. They both came with some baggage. They were both from the rural South. They both went to smaller colleges than you think their talent would land them in. But Randy Moss, this weekend and today, you watched them last night, feels so much bigger than T.O. Because the lasting image of Randy Moss will be this weekend in Canton, Ohio. Humbled, emotional, perhaps crying, thanking people. And T.O. will look small and petty and immature, somewhere in Chattanooga. I'm sure it will be a charming festivity, but pouting and petty. America forgives often, but to be forgiving, you have to be willing to have some humility. Randy Moss has all sorts of baggage. T.O. has all sorts of baggage. They were both remarkable talents, same part of the country, same stats mostly across the board. But Randy Moss this weekend is joining another team. Will cry as he does and will let us celebrate with him. T.O. will be holding out. Yep. A good movie can be ruined by a bad ending. And as Randy Moss steps to the podium and speaks this weekend and his son speaks for him, he will look bigger than ever and will forget the times he drove us absolutely crazy. And we'll think about T.O. and his pettiness, and he will never look smaller when compared to Randy Moss. It is great to have you in. Something that I just saw this morning, and a divorce is coming in sports, and it's not here yet, but the arguments are starting. And both parties, although they would never admit it, are coming to a realization. It includes the Dallas Cowboys. A divorce is coming soon. I'm not talking about the Dez thing. That divorce has already happened. There's another one around the corner that's coming up. All right, I saw this story, and a lot of people are going to think it's nothing, but it's something. The Cowboys' Ezekiel Elliott facing $1 million lawsuit over a January 2017 car crash. Okay, Ezekiel Elliott at the time said, no big deal, I've been in bigger collisions, but Ezekiel Elliott now has a list. And that's the key word here. He now has a list. Initially, he called out coaches at Ohio State. Then there was the Mardi Gras situation, the inappropriate situation, Mardi Gras with a woman. But now it's not just one in college and one in the NFL. That would be fine 5 or 6 years in. Kids are young. I understand that. But now we've got the incident at Mardi Gras. We've got an allegation of assault at a nightclub. He got into a fight. The assault against the woman allegation. A car crash lawsuit. Pulled over for going 100 miles an hour. Folks, we're 2 years in. We haven't started year 3 yet. He's now list guy. By the way, Johnny Manziel was incident guy. Then he became list guy. He now plays in Montreal. Jameis Winston was incident guy and became list guy. Where is Jameis Winston? Suspended. I've been tough on Jameis Winston. I've been tough on Johnny Manziel because they were incident. You can have an incident or two, but when you become list guy, you're in trouble. Rick Pitino had an incident or two. Rick Pitino then became list guy. Oh, Kentucky basketball scandal. Oh, affair with his trainer's wife on the staff. Oh, a brothel on campus. Then he's a list guy. Coaches that end up list guys end up out of jobs. Hopefully Urban Meyer isn't becoming a list guy. Okay, once you become a list guy, you've got an expiration date. OBJ is now becoming a list guy. You will not have a relationship with Ezekiel Elliott in Dallas in 10 years. You won't have it in 5 or 6 years. Des Bryant became a list guy. Incident in college. Couple in the NFL. Then another outburst. Then how's Des Bryant doing? How's Jameis Winston doing? How's Johnny Manziel doing? How's Rick Pitino doing? By the way, how's Urban Meyer doing? It doesn't seem like a big deal. It's just $1 million lawsuit. No. 2 years in, I count 5, maybe 6 incidents. Once you compile incidents one after the other, you become list guy. Ohio State coaches calls them out. Domestic violence allegations, Florida and Ohio. Throwing a punch at a nightclub. Removing a woman's top at a St. Patrick's Day party. Now a lawsuit. Ain't gonna end well. Never does. List guy never ends well. You don't think it's a big deal? We're 2 years in. We are 2 years in. Haven't even started year 3 yet. And we got another story. Here's Joy Taylor with the news.
No.
Turn on the news. This is the Herdline News.
So last year for Tom Brady's 40th birthday, the Patriots brought in 5 goats to celebrate each of Brady's Super Bowl wins. We had a goat in here a couple weeks ago. It was adorable. So this year, the Patriots had to get a little more creative for his 41st birthday. By the way, happy birthday, Tom Brady. So at camp, they brought in a 1,200 pounds cake. The cake can serve as many as 8,000 people. It's a giant 12. There you go. It's red velvet and vanilla. Red velvet is my favorite. There you go. They're digging in.
Look at that. What bakery? I think you'd have to build this in sections, I'm taking it.
It's
Is that icing or paint?
Montilio's Baking Company. Is it icing or paint? Do you like cake?
You know, I know it's awful for me, but even sheet cake, and I know it's just awful. I mean, if you eat sheet cake every day for a month, you look like a meth addict.
Well,
it's terrible for you.
Sheet cake every day for a month.
I know. I'm just telling you, I can't stop eating sheet cake.
Where are you getting it?
Well, whenever I go to parties, this place has a sheet cake about once every 2 weeks.
I mean, I love cake, but every day? Are you doing like a Super Size Me documentary? Anyway, happy birthday to Tom Brady. It's very impressive. So you just mentioned Dez Bryant and the Cowboys. They seem confident they made the right decision by parting ways with him. The latest comments come from wide receivers coach Sanjay Lal, who was asked if the Cowboys have anyone who can go up and get a ball the way that Bryant did during his time with the team. His response indicates he believes Dallas is better off without Dez. He said, "I would think so. I would rather have down the field guys that go run down a ball and score than live in the back shoulder world."
Oh.
Ooh,
you know what? But I will say this. Aaron Rodgers really created the back shoulder. And everybody now is like, I love the back shoulder throw. You do realize Aaron Rodgers created it and mostly has been the master of it. There's certain things that, Gordon Ramsay, the chef, can do that the guy at Applebee's can't. Like, let's not do back shoulder throws because Aaron Rodgers does back. LeBron does a lot of stuff nobody else can do, too. So I've always thought the back shoulder thing, yes, if you have a quarterback that's great and a receiver who puts in the time, is a grown, because that's a trust throw.
Right.
That is I don't trust Dez Bryant.
That's exactly why I think it kind of fell apart, because Dak and Dez never seemed to be on that wavelength, and Tony Romo and Dez were.
That's exactly right, Joey.
And Dez didn't want to reinvent himself with Dak Prescott. It was almost like he was like holding on to, just like that guy that's always bragging about how great he was in high school. Like, we don't care anymore, bro. Evolve. That's kind of what happened here. And it seems like every bridge is burnt there in Dallas with Dez, except for Jerry Jones.
Yes.
Because that's just how Jerry is. Yeah. But seems like they made the right decision. Finally, LeBron hasn't played a single minute as a Laker, but his mural in L.A. is getting the royal treatment. We've talked a lot about murals on this show here in L.A. Gustavo Zermeño Jr. updated the mural with LeBron's jersey. Just keeps getting pieces added to it.
Ah.
Some more Laker icons were added.
Where is this at in Los Angeles?
This is on Melrose.
Okay.
So if you want to go drive by and take a peek.
This is great. Chick
Very
Hearn.
fancy.
There's Shaq. There's Magic. There's Wilt over to the right. Jerry West. This is really well done.
It really is.
It really is well done.
I like it. I just think that Lakers fans are being so funny about LeBron. It's really amusing.
Folks, in October,
this is like the most accepted one, and it's just because it depicts LeBron in some sort of humble way.
This is more celebratory of the Laker franchise as a whole.
Yes.
The other one is, hey, here's the king, and it was just too much too soon for people.
The King of LA was. Look, I can't pretend. It's ridiculous that it's too much too soon for you. Who are you? What have you been the past 4 years? You've been the laughingstock of the league. You're supposed to be the greatest franchise, the cornerstone franchise of the NBA. You've not won more than 35 games, and the greatest player currently in the league,
who wants to play for you,
who does nothing but go to finals, chooses to come and play for you, and you're just so.
But you know what? I think this is
the notion that he thinks he might be good enough. He didn't even do it. Someone else is celebrating.
Listen,
him.
I like millennials because I'm around kids all the time. You could be a millennial. I like millennials.
I'm on the border.
Okay, the downside to millennials is they don't like sports. They like players. They don't care about the Lakers. They care about Kobe.
But you know what that is? It's because back in the day, when I was growing up, you couldn't watch just any team on TV. You watched the team that was in your city, or you watched the biggest franchises like the Cowboys and the Packers.
Now you can watch anybody.
And the Lakers and the Celtics and the Bulls. So now you can watch anybody. So it's very easy for you to live in Miami and be a fan of Russell Westbrook because you can order the package and watch everyone. Yep. So that's just the evolution of sports. I have no problem with that.
The evolution of sports is younger fans care about the player more than the team. And so when somebody comes to L.A. and threatens Kobe, even though it'll make the Lakers way better, there's going to be young fans that freak out.
And then you got to throw social media in it, too. People feel like they have more access to individual players.
Yeah. Joy Taylor with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
Okay. So it's time to say nice job, NFL, and oh, here we go again, NFL, in the same segment. So let's start with the nice job, NFL. So the last kind of like 10, 12 years, we didn't know what a catch was. We didn't know what in the world a catch was. And very early in last night's game, we had a situation that we've been living in the last 10 to 12 to 15 years. And here's what happened, and here's the call.
You're really looking, does he have control before the ball hits the ground? That's the whole point of this play. And it looks like you can make an argument either way. Can you say he definitively does not have control is the question. And in that case, you got to go stance.
And what about hitting the ground? Ball hitting the ground.
If he has control first, he kept control after it hit the ground, he's good. Whatever the official ruled on the field, if it's not absolutely clear and obvious that he made a mistake, go with the ruling on the field, put the ball in play, and move on. Well, remember, the ruling on the field is a catch.
After reviewing the play, the ruling on the field stands.
There we go.
First down.
Slow clap. NFL, congratulations. That's a catch. Secured the ball, knee down. I don't care about the ground. That's a catch. For the last 12 years, this is what the NFL did. Now, my staff hates when I do this, but for the last 12 years, here's my phone. I've got possession of my phone. I've got possession. If my phone hit this table, take a solo shot on me. The NFL said that Colin's lost possession. Well, I didn't lose possession. The phone's right here. If it hit the table, hit the field, I lost possession. No, this is losing possession. Okay? So the NFL, for last night, the NFL said, Colin's got his phone. Oh, it hit the grip. Well, Colin still got his phone. Even if it moves in my hand a little bit, I'm not losing possession, right? I know everybody hates this. But if I have my phone and it hits this and I still have, even if it jiggles a little bit, I've got possession of my phone. The NFL for 12 years, that was Terry McAuliffe, former NFL ref. They finally figured it out. Now, remember, they cleaned this up in the Super Bowl last year. There were two huge plays in last year's Super Bowl. And this is when the NFL really got it right. They cleaned it up in the Super Bowl. Here's the first one, where the ball is juggled, but it is called, and it should be it's called a catch. Because even though the ball wiggles, he has possession. He's got the ball to catch, foot down. Now, the ball placement moves. He never loses possession. That's the right call. They did it earlier or later. I forget if it was before or after. Zach Ertz. Here's the one over the middle. This is also the right call. Touchdown. He has the ball. He has feet down. He is established. That's a touchdown. It should be. I don't care that the ball hits the ground. I don't want different rules at the goal line than at the 24-yard line. So they started cleaning it up last year. And, I mean, America does this occasionally, Joy. America does this. They lose their minds and they try to convince us of something that's good is bad. We did it with prohibition. You could drink in America. You could go to a local bar and have a gin. And then America said, whoa, prohibition. You can't drink alcohol. And we had people making bourbon in their bathtub. And then people finally went in America, wait a minute. What's wrong with people going out and having a shot of whiskey at a bar? That's what prohibition was. Obviously, it's okay to go down to a local watering hole, a pub, and have a beer with a friend. It's good social lubrication. It's wonderful. Every neighborhood should have a nice pub. But for a while, America said, can't have pubs. Beer is bad. And people started making gin in their bathtubs. And then America figured it out and went, what are we doing? This is crazy. This is nonsense. That's what the NFL did. Here's a catch. No, wait. It hit the ground. You wiggled. Last night, they hopefully figured it out. Okay, here's the bad news. Joey, there's never a day with just good news. Here's the new confusing rule. So we got the catch rule apparently figured out. The new rule that is going to be controversial, it is called the helmet rule, and let me read it to you. NFL owners in May approved the new rule, the helmet rule, which states it is a foul if a player lowers his head to initiate and make contact with his helmet against an opponent. It applies to all players all the time in the field. It wants to be the leader of the NFL in bucking the trend on some of the violent stuff of football, okay? So we saw this last night. We got some tape on this, I believe. Boy, here's our new catch rule headache. It's called the helmet rule.
You almost have to be a contortionist to avoid this.
Yeah, but I think if you look at the verbiage rule, I don't see this player lowering his head to initiate contact with an opponent. It looks like he's trying to drive his shoulder. He's got his head out in front. It's up a little bit. I think this is just not a foul. What they've been told to do is just throw. In the preseason, just throw. They're going to take a library of plays and try and hopefully by the time we get to Philadelphia, week 1, they'll have a really good understanding of what they want as a foul and what isn't.
Okay, this is the NFL's latest mess. This is going to be for the next 10 years until they clean it up, a real mess. Players are confused. Refs are confused. Terry McAuley saying, a former NFL ref, they're just kind of figure it out during the preseason, get a library, a catalog of hits, sit down for a week or two and go, okay, that was a bad call. That's a good call. That's a good call. That's a bad call. You know what this reminds me of? And this is the reality of what we're seeing here. When any time you're changing something and we are watching it live, you see the warts. Right now in the NFL with the helmet rule, you as a consumer, a fan, are seeing how the sausage is made. It's ugly. This is what we've had post 9/11 with airport security. You've watched them live as you stand in line into the airport change the rules. Shoes on, shoes off. TSA, now they have something called clear. If I take my son, I don't even go through security. I go to this little door on the left with a plastic shield. Can I have shampoo? Yeah, if it's this big. What if it's that big? Not sure if it's that big. Can't have water. I know that for sure. Unless it's in a small tube. What about my belt? Well, you've got clear. You can get through. TSA, absolutely fine. How old is my son? 12. He goes here. My son's 14. He goes there. I ever stood in line in an airport and thought, like NFL refs, TSA people, is this a full-time job? This should be a full-time job. I'm confused. I'm at an airport. But that's what's happening with airport security. You're watching it live. That's why lines are so long. That's why there's confusion. That's why there's frustration. You're watching them correct it with new data, new fears, new threats, new technology. You're watching it live, and you're seeing the warts. And the helmet rule is similarly, you're seeing how the sausage is made. They don't even know. Players confused. Refs are confused. The announcers, Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth, are confused. I think they'll figure it out.
Well, it's just frustrating because it's all, like you said, it's always changing, but also these are huge fines and can get you suspended, and they can change the course of a game because you're getting a penalty in the middle of the game. They can't call in and say, oh, well, it wasn't really that.
Yeah. Coming up next, one of my favorite guys, had him on yesterday. He's in town for 2 days. Greg Cosell. Some thoughts on Lamar Jackson last night. He's got an interesting piece of tape or two on Deshaun Watson. Remember, they open up with New England. The Houston Texans do. That's right around the corner.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports Radio, FS1, and the iHeartRadio app.
Welcome back, Greg Cosell. We only get him on the couch a couple times a year, so we keep him in town. Yesterday, last hour, today, first hour, NFL Films, 40 years. You're the last of a dying breed. One company, 40 years.
I'm starting my 39th NFL season. You just made me feel old, Colin.
I'm sorry.
That's probably because I am.
Well, not that old. You've stayed on the cutting edge of this stuff.
Right.
So Lamar Jackson's the cutting edge of quarterbacks.
Yep.
Obviously, he's a kid that even with Bobby Petrino, many games last year, 6 games at Louisville, he ran for as many or more touchdowns than he passed for, despite the fact he's got a pretty good whip on him, a pretty good arm on him. Didn't play well last night. Didn't shock me. Should Raven fans be concerned?
No, and I think you have to put this in a much bigger context.
Okay.
I think you have to put this in the context of how the NFL game is changing, because what you're seeing now in the NFL game is a lot more shotgun, a lot more misdirection, a lot more deception elements, a lot more influence elements on the defense that make it more and more difficult for the defense to be able to react. Puts a lot of stress on the linebackers, on safeties. You know this. You're a big college football fan. That's really where the game is going offensively. And I think someone like Lamar Jackson, yes, will it take time? Of course. But when you do a lot of this in the backfield and make it difficult for the defense, you define the reads and the throws much more easily for the quarterback. And that will help someone like Lamar Jackson as he develops.
By the way, throws better to the right than he does to the left. I've compared him. I think he's a much better prospect than Tim Tebow, but I said Baltimore and Denver are proud franchises. The coaches are on the hot seat. People are getting restless, and both these guys run, and even though their stats and data won't blow you away, you're going to have these kind of plays where, like Lamar Jackson runs last night, and I'm like, oh, that's exciting. I mean, as a consumer, I'm like, oh, I like watching that. I wouldn't want to build my team around a running quarterback, but every time we have one in the league, I run home to make sure I watch him.
Let me ask you this. Lamar Jackson, Michael Vick.
I think
what was the difference coming out?
Well, it was a different era. I mean, Michael was brand new. I watched Lamar, and I think I've seen parts of this. I think Michael was a better thrower, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But I think, as I said, the changing NFL game makes it such that quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson can be a lot more efficient earlier in their career.
Yeah. And by the way, the coaches now know how to coach quarterbacks who do that. Michael came into the league, and it was an experiment.
Without question.
Yeah. Okay, so Bill O'Brien, Bill O'Brien similarly has Deshaun Watson. I always use the stat. Deshaun Watson, I read this, won the state high jump championship in Georgia as either an 8th or a 9th grader. He's a remarkable athlete.
Right.
I mean, Georgia's got a million Division I athletes. He's like an 8th grader, a 9th grader who won the state high jump championship. So you've got some tape on what Bill O'Brien did to use some of his gifts but still have him in the pocket.
Well, this is the perfect segue, just what we're speaking about. Because what you did is you saw almost a totally different offensive approach from week one when Tom Savage was the starting quarterback to then when Deshaun Watson came. They put him in the shotgun. They did all this misdirection, backfield action, and you put 3 wide receivers on the field on first down, but yet you still have a run game. You force the defense to bring an extra player in the box because the run game still exists as a major weapon, and you get a single high safety. And that's what the play shows. This is against New England that we're showing you, and they play New England week 1 this year.
Okay.
So let's go back last year and look at this play, okay? This was his second NFL start. This was a touchdown pass to Ellington, okay? So just what I said. What do you get? You get the 3 wide receiver look. You get cover 3. It's a zone concept, the single high safety. You get the slot receiver running the seam route. So what's the quarterback's responsibility here? The quarterback's responsibility is to control and manipulate the single high safety. This is outstanding quarterbacking for a quarterback making his second NFL start. Watson moved the single high safety, so he had the clean window throw to the slot receiver versus cover 3 where he knew that he'd have an outside leverage player and that the window was there and the throw was there. And you can see it from this angle really well that he looks to his left to move the safety. But this is what you're getting, Colin, in the NFL now. You're getting 3 wide receiver looks. As I said, this was 1st and 10, so you get the run game element. You see how the second-level defenders react to the run, and then you get defined throws for the quarterback, so the progression reading is not as sophisticated or detailed as it was 15, 20 years ago. It's easier mentally.
Now, let me just say, I consider Deshaun Watson, and I've been on this now for 2 years, I consider him a significantly better prospect than Lamar Jackson.
He's a better thrower than Lamar
No
Jackson.
question. Now, I consider, I don't even think of Deshaun Watson as anything other than an athletic pocket thrower.
Right.
I think he's a huge talent.
He does not use his athletic ability as a crutch. He does not just
run.
Correct. He's a better thrower, but now we're talking offensive philosophy and the approach of football to maximize the abilities of your quarterback.
Yeah, I think we'll look back in 10 years and we'll not believe that somebody drafted Mitch Trubisky over Deshaun Watson. I said that before the draft.
Be right. But Trubisky's going to be in a similar situation with the offense that they're going to run in Chicago.
Yes. By the way, they do that RPO stuff with Trubisky.
Right.
People forget. Trubisky, by the way, has got a lot of wiggle in him. And by the way, Trubisky needs that wiggle because he's not a great thrower by any stretch.
He's not.
Okay, so here's another interesting story. So Cam now comes in, similarly, a lot of athlete, a lot of running, but Cam's got a cannon for an arm. He is not a precision thrower. It's always been my knock. He's I call him roller coaster Cam. But it's interesting. They bring in Norv Turner now. This is fascinating because Norv wants precision, and Norm generally takes quarterbacks and their completion percentage goes up immediately. What transpires here?
Because Norv teaches efficiency. Now, the offense that Cam ran before was philosophically the same. It's the old Don Coryell offense. That's where Norv cut his teeth as well under Ernie Sampisi. Ernie Sampisi was with Don Coryell back with the Chargers. So you have continuity there. But what Norv is going to try to get Cam to do is take the easy throws. That's something Cam has not done well, Colin. That's why his completion percentage has not been high, because he tries to make a lot of difficult throws. He can make wow throws. We know that. But he's been inconsistent as a passer in terms of accuracy, at times being scattershot. So he's going to try to get him to take the easy throws, be an efficient thrower, throw it to the right receiver at the right time with the right kind of throw. Whether Cam can do that in his 7th or 8th year, that remains to be seen. But that's the goal. Become more of a move-the-chains quarterback than a big-play quarterback.
And problematic for Cam is Drew Brees and Matt Ryan are high-precision guys, and they're in his division. So he plays those 4 games every year. He is facing the ultimate precision guys, and he tends to be, I've compared him a little to Terry Bradshaw.
Which was a different era of football.
But Terry Terry made a lot of mistakes. Terry threw a lot of picks. But Cam and Terry, I'm not sure anybody looks more beautiful. It's a poster throwing a deep ball. It is stunningly beautiful. The confidence, the poise, the anything. Okay, let's go to Sam Darnold. I like him a lot.
I know you do.
You're not as high on him. Now, let me preface it. I don't think he's as talented as Andrew Luck.
He's not.
But I like him. You don't as much. Why?
Well, it's not that I don't like him. I think that he needs work. I think he needs work with his fundamentals and mechanics. You and I have discussed this before. There's a looseness to him. There's a recklessness to him.
Yes.
There's a lack of discipline to the way he plays. And that starts with the fundamentals and the techniques of the position. Simple stuff. The quarterback exchange and dropping back from center. Getting your footwork right. Stepping with your feet, having your eyes and your feet work together so you step to your throw. He needs simple work like that. Now, the only concern I have is the Jets do not have a quarterback coach.
Wow.
There's only 3 teams in the NFL that don't. The Jets are one of them. They've got a young offensive coordinator who's very highly thought of in Jeremy Bates, but he's a young coordinator, and it's hard to coordinate and coach the quarterback with the detail and the nuance required, do both of those things. So I like Sam Darnold's talent, but he needs to become a far more disciplined player because there are going to be routine throws. You can't miss those throws. He missed too many of those throws at USC. I know you know that.
I know I do. I like him. I don't think he's Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck went 11-5, 11-5, 11-5 with no talent. Had he been given a modicum of talent, he would have gone 13-3, 13-3, 13-3. Darnold's not that.
Right.
I think Luck is a once-a-decade talent. I think he was totally underserved by people in that organization, owner down. I think now Luck finally has Frank Reich. He's finally got Chris Ballard, the GM, and I think the impulsive owner will be kept at bay. Finally, you saw Big Ben recently.
Yeah.
Big Ben did not get along with Todd Haley. Big Ben's got Le'Veon Bell issues. Big Ben has called out Mike Tomlin. He's got a new coordinator in. I love Big Ben. I like the Steelers this year. What do you make of the whole new coordinator, Le'Veon Bell? How is the feeling when you talk to Big Ben this year?
The offense will be the same in terms of the concepts. I think the issues they face are some personnel issues. As we sit right now, they don't have a true slot receiver. So they have to figure that out, and that's an important player. Now, they drafted James Washington in the 2nd round from Oklahoma State.
He's a home run hitter, though.
He won't be in the NFL. It's funny. I watched his tape, and he caught a ton of deep balls at Oklahoma State from Mason Rudolph, but after watching him, I didn't think he would do that in the NFL. And actually, in talking with Ben, he kind of indicated the same thing, that he didn't see him that way going through the OTAs and the offseason workouts. But they need to find a slot receiver, and that's a concern. But I think offensively, conceptually, there won't be many differences at all.
Okay, so it'll be, we'll still see Ben going over the top. By the way,
oh yeah,
we only have 20 seconds here. Does he like Juju Smith-Schuster?
Loves him. Talk to him about him. Loves him.
You know, I told you this a year ago.
Yeah.
I said he's my favorite USC NFL prospect in 10 years.
Super competitive.
Oh,
Love the kid.
He is a great kid, a hard worker. I think he's a little more gifted than Anquan Bolden.
He is. Little more explosive,
but he's going to be in the NFL for a long time. He'll be Hines Ward with more talent, Anquan Borden with more talent, Greg Cosell. Nobody's got more talent. Hour 2 next. The Herd. This is The Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1. Joy Taylor joining me. Hour 2. Some of you have said, Colin, what's up with the new music top of your show? I can't get into it. We can't use the music we had to. I think in the next month we're going to try to find new music to start each hour. We may have a contest. We may ask bands across America to do it. I'll call my friend John Bon Jovi. Not really. But we'll figure out the music thing. It's August. We're messing around. It's like TSA and the NFL officials. You're just watching us make the sausage here. We'll figure out the new stuff. Joy Taylor joining us hour number 2 on a Friday. How are you, Joy?
Great.
So, this is a story. I love this story. The story I'm going to talk to you about is about not being a rat. It's about not being a snitch. And everybody these days is a rat. I work in the media. Everybody's covering their butt 24/7. They're leaking stuff to this media guy. They're leaking stuff to that media guy. They're gossiping to that media guy. I work around nothing but rats. But I'll tell you who's not a rat. Tom Brady. According to a new book, the NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell offered Tom Brady $1 million fine. Tom, pay $1 million fine. All you got to do is come out and throw Johnny and Jimmy under the bus, and you can play. Here's the excerpt regarding Deflategate. In a new book called 12, The Inside Story of Tom Brady's Fight for Redemption, Goodell demanded Brady state publicly that former Patriot equipment guys John Jastrzemski and Jim McNally had purposely tampered with footballs even without his knowledge. Brady refused to. He said, hey, I'm not going to ruin these guys for something I believe they didn't do. This is not a small thing. We live in a time now, these would have been the easiest guys to throw under a bus. There are a couple of guys might as well be working in back at Costco. Johnny and Jimmy did it. Those guys did it. I didn't do anything. Johnny and Jimmy did it. And Brady wouldn't do it. By the way, Lance Armstrong blamed everybody. Roger Clemens pointed fingers at his trainer. Rick Pitino, it's my low-level assistant coach. Ryan Braun in baseball, it's the tester's problem. That is the current climate in America. Blame somebody else. You're a victim. I can't believe it. I've been cornered. This is outrageous. I'm a victim. Lance Armstrong, Roger Clemens, Ryan Braun, Rick Pitino. I don't know, says this football coach. I didn't see it, says this basketball coach. It is the easiest thing to do. That is the current culture in America. Be a rat. Be a snitch. That is what everybody does now. And Tom Brady wouldn't do it. And by the way, Deflategate's going to ding his legacy. It is. They're going to mention it when he retires. Deflategate. And there's going to give more people when Spygate is combined with Deflategate, those guys are cheaters. And Tom Brady, I mean, come on. Every NFL coach, bad record. Who's Pete Carroll blamed this week? Get rid of this coordinator. Get rid of that coordinator. I got to get a new coordinator because it's not my fault, it's the coordinator. Tom Brady didn't. Tom Brady's worth $300 million. He could have written a fine, blamed a couple of Johnnies and Jimmies, and he wouldn't do it. That's why Tom Brady is a great American.
He's just a real one.
If you want to make America great again, there's your next president.
Even Belichick said, ask the quarterback.
Yeah, even Belichick's like, it's not me. Robert Kraft, not me. It's Tommy. Tommy's like, Tommy could have thrown those guys under a bus, and he didn't. I mean, it is Boston. You know what happens in Boston? Everybody's squealing to the cops. Departed, you remember the movie? Everybody's connected to the cops. You know the greatest line in movie history? I'll butcher it. I can't say it because there's a swear word. I can't. It's the Alec Baldwin. Remember the Alec Baldwin line about how he treats cops? He goes, it was Mark Wahlberg. He said, I feed them blank and keep them in the dark. They're like mushrooms. Cops are like mushrooms. I feed them blank and keep them in the dark or something like that. Okay, I'm all worked up. God, he is a great American. He really is a great American.
It's really remarkable when you look at how long. I mean, we forget because I think everyone was so excited to finally move on from that story, but how long that story dragged out.
Oh, God, 2
and
years.
all the opportunities that Tom Brady had to just clip it.
Bury
but he wanted
guys.
to keep his reputation intact, and all he had to do was blame it on these 2 equipment guys.
Wouldn't do it. I mean, we got a lot of politicians in America today are firing left and right. Somebody else's fault. I'm a victim, not Brady. Isaiah Thomas, we were talking about this yesterday, is one of the great players of all time. He was on a dynasty with the Pistons. By the way, Michael Jordan couldn't beat that team at their prime. Michael Jordan could not beat Isaiah Thomas and the Pistons. Isaiah Thomas was talking about Lonzo Ball, the Lakers. And I want you to listen to this piece of tape.
Lonzo's a great kid. I mean, I don't think you're going to be able to fix his jump shot, but you can work with it and get it better at how it is right now. He's a talented young player that's going to be special in this league because he has the tools to be special.
But it's interesting. He said, I don't think they'll be able to fix his jump shot. Now, when Isaiah was a general manager, it should be noted, he had a good eye for talent. He had a very good eye for talent. But, that's the other Isaiah. Yeah. So here's the thing about Lonzo Ball. Let me just say this. He isn't going to be able to fix his jump shot. He's not, ever. He's not going to fix his jump shot. Give me the list of guys in the NBA who came into the NBA talented and we knew they weren't good shooters. And then 10 years later, you're like, wow, what a shooter. John Wall came into this league, not a shooter. John Wall, 8 years in last year, shot 42%. Still can't hit a three. Okay, Derrick Rose came in this league, been in the league 10 years. He still shoots about 43, 44%. Westbrook last year, three-point shooting percentage was 29.8%. Awful. It's not like they don't work on it. It's not like they don't practice. It's not like those guys don't sit outside and want to be better. Like, Lonzo Ball's never going to be a good shooter.
But that's not what they brought Lonzo in to do.
Exactly. He's long. He has great vision. By the way, last 20 games he played, Lakers 13-7. He won at UCLA. He left UCLA. It wasn't the same program. He's going to be a really good player. But they do studies right now. They do studies in America all the time. Your personality by 6, 7, and 8 years old, it is what it is. You can go to therapy. You can get into a great relationship. By 6, 7, and 8 years old, they will do tests on your personality. And 40 years later, you are largely, overwhelmingly the same person. It's the same in the NBA. Now, LeBron and Melo both came in with a high ceiling. LeBron reached his ceiling. Carmelo didn't because LeBron works harder. But Lonzo Ball, I've said this before, will never be a superstar in this league. Ben Simmons has the same basic flaw, could be worse than Lonzo. He can't shoot either. But Ben Simmons will be a superstar because he's much better physically, much better athletically. He's a much bigger body. Ben Simmons and Lonzo Ball have the same problem. In fact, Ben's problem's worse than Lonzo. He can't shoot at all. Lonzo can't shoot. Ben Simmons won't. He's so bad. People are suggesting Ben Simmons should shoot with the other hand. But the point is, much like kids being developed at 8, 9 years old, the difference is Ben's got a much higher ceiling because he's a better athlete. Ben Simmons will never be a great shooter in this league. I doubt he's ever a good shooter. But he can still be a star because he can get the ball to other shooters, and he does finish at the rim. He shot 54% because he finishes at the rim. He's also a great defender. He's big, strong, long, all that stuff, great vision. But it's funny about Lonzo. Jason Kidd is the one person everybody uses.
Right.
Everybody goes, Jason Kidd, Jason Kidd, Jason Kidd, Jason Kidd. What, Jason Kidd, you ever thought of him as one of the great shooters in the NBA? Even his best year shooting in the NBA, Jason Kidd had 1 year where he shot 44%. Years before it and years after it, 38, 39.5, 40. And Jason Kidd made a miraculous improvement in his shooting. He was never a natural shooter. He got much better at the three. But even his best year, he had years before it and his years after it went back to what he was.
Look, everybody doesn't have to have the same skill set in order to be successful or to be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, now
And mind you, Lonzo had the same shot when he was at UCLA. It's not like the Lakers didn't have all that tape on him shooting the exact same way.
Now, I do believe that LeBron could make Lonzo the best Lonzo can be.
Right.
But Lonzo will never average 25. I don't think he'll ever average 20.
They don't need him to.
But I think LeBron will get he'll pull the most out of him. But it's funny when I hear people talk about, I don't think he's going to be able to fix that shot. Westbrook can't fix his shot. He's 10 years in the league.
We just talked about it yesterday. He's working on his three-point shot all summer.
John Wall can't fix it, and John Wall wants to fix it, and Derrick Rose can't fix it. You come into this league, and there's certain things. You just are what you are. And Lonzo's long, but he's not athletic. He's not real strong. He's not physically imposing. He has tremendous vision. He does win games. He makes teams better. UCLA fell off the map when he left. When he played his last 20 games last year, rookie year, they were 13-7. They were a real team with Lonzo. People like playing with him. I think he's a pretty good on-ball defender because he's pretty quick and he's a good rebounder. He's really long. But I don't think his shot will ever get significantly better either.
Everybody doesn't need to be a pure shooter. If it's not natural to you, then that's not what it is. But that's not what they brought him there to do. Also, the problem with his shot, to me, everyone thinks that it's his unnatural movements with his hands. But if you watch when Lonzo shoots, it's really how he lands that is the problem with his shot. People have had unorthodox shots before, but shooting is not just how you hold the ball or how you bring it up. It's your entire body. It's your core and your hips. If you watch how he lands, that's really what needs to be fixed.
Coming up next, I am surprised nobody else is saying it. But it's going to happen, and it's the first time it's going to happen in nearly 20 years, and that is coming up next. I'm all for good sportsmanship. Huge fan of Hyundai. New shopper assurance program. Transparent pricing, flexible test driving, streamlined purchasing. Check it out today, HyundaiUSA.com/shopper assurance. Check it out. Learn more for yourself. By the way, it is amazing. The Patriots have signed wide receiver Eric Decker to a one-year deal. I said this before. The only reason I like the Patriots to win their division is their division's kind of a mess with a bunch of rookies starting and Ryan Tannehill, who I don't love, and Miami's coach I'm not sure of, and Miami got rid of Ndamukong Suh and Jarvis Landry, so I don't know what to make of Miami. I think they're kind of getting the bad guys out of the locker room, bad guys in their opinion. Ndamukong Suh, more of an individual, not a team guy, kind of did his own thing. Jarvis Landry didn't work for Adam Gase. He wanted too much money. Browns overpaid for him, whatever. But what I do find interesting is they're kind of rebooting. People don't understand this. This is the worst team Brady's had since pre-Randy Moss. This wide receiving core, look around the NFL right now. Everybody's paying wide receivers. Kansas City paid a ton for Sammy Watkins. Rams played for Brandon Cooks. Vikings paying for their guys, Stephon Diggs. Everybody's paying for wide receivers. Okay, and people are saying, why? Why? Because the NFL's changed. Because people are looking around the NFL and they don't want to pay Khalil Mack. They don't want to pay Earl Thomas. They don't want to pay Aaron Donald. Defensive players can't stop anybody. I mean, do you really believe it is a coincidence that the best defensive tackle, maybe the best pass rusher, and maybe the best safety can't get phone calls from their teams? I mean, Earl Thomas has to write an article yesterday calling out the Seahawks because he can't get calls back. And they won't make him a legitimate offer, and Pete Carroll says no thanks. Khalil Mack, John Gruden, they're not even calling now. They're not even talking since February. Aaron Donald, where is he? And the Rams are giving money to everybody. Where is he? It is a trend. The NFL tends to be a followers league. That's just the way. There's two businesses in America where it's a copycat. Television, if you create a big hit show like American Idol, now we got The Voice, America's Got Talent, it's a copycat business. TV always has been. Radio, not so much. TV is. College football is not necessarily a copycat business. You can watch a college football game in the South. Looks different than a college football game out West. Different coach, different styles. Chip Kelly's offense is different than Nick Saban's offense. One's power, one's finesse, whatever. But with New England, the only thing saving them to me is their division. I wouldn't pick them to win the AFC North over Pittsburgh. I wouldn't pick them to necessarily win the AFC South over Houston. I wouldn't pick them to win the AFC West over the Chargers roster or the Chiefs. I really wouldn't. I wouldn't pick them to win the NFC East over Philadelphia, Dallas, and I think an improved New York Giants team in Washington. I wouldn't pick them to beat Green Bay or Minnesota. I really think this is the worst offensive repertoire. I think their defensive line's a little better. Look at their receiving core right now. They've added Kenny Britt. Look at this. It's Braxton Berrios, a rookie. How many rookie receivers have popped for New England? How about none ever? It's too complex. Kenny Britt, washed up, head case. Eric Decker, hurt all last year. Philip Dorsett was a bust in Indy. Julian Edelman's out for a month. Chris Hogan's biggest year ever was 5 touchdowns. And Cordarrelle Patterson, who's kind of a punt returner. I don't think he's ever had, I don't think he's ever had a 1,000-yard season. That is their receiving core. Now, I know Eric Mangini told me in New England it's finishing school. It better be. It better be the world's greatest finishing school. That is a bad receiving core. Go look at Atlanta's. Go look at the Rams. I mean, look at some of the receiving cores in this league. Go look at Houston. Look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, you don't have a guy on that list that could, other than Edelman. By the way, Edelman's 32 off an ACL. So he is an old receivers fall off a cliff at 33, 34 years old. He's old off an ACL. That is a bet. They're rebuilding their offensive line. Gronk is only starting 10 to 11 games a year. If Gronk goes down in the first month and they don't have Edelman or Gronk, that is your receiving core. That's a mess. And they're rebuilding for the first time in a long time their offensive line. And Tom Brady just turned 41 years old. So you ever seen the show Pickers? Those two guys go into old barns and pick stuff. That receiving core for New England is the stuff even they don't pick. That's like the old flashlight and the old bicycle. Even those guys are like, no, that's not even. We can't even fix that stuff. And they pick everything.
Sometimes they find a little hidden gem.
There's no hidden gems there. You better host Braxton Berrios, who played.
I really actually like Braxton Berrios. When he was playing at UM, my thought was that he should go to New England. He's built perfectly for that.
Yeah, little slot guy, clever guy.
I mean, he'll probably start out on special teams, but.
Car shopping's confusing. Terms like dealer price, list price, invoice. TrueCar shows you what other people paid for the car you want. You can recognize a good price. TrueCar.com, new or used. Here's Joy with the news.
No.
Turn on the news.
This is the Herd Line News.
All right, so LeBron's living his best life right now, and he's been a little busy this summer. But you can find him on the sidelines with his 13-year-old Bronny because he leads his AAU team. LeBron helped coach the North Carolina Blue Chips to a USBA national championship last month. And a video just surfaced of LeBron explaining the importance of accepting your role to a group of young players.
We got Hall of Famers and some of the best players that ever played a game came off the bench or didn't play. That don't mean you ain't good. There's guys in the NBA that don't play. Does that mean they're not good? They got to the NBA because they were sorry? They're just playing a role. If you don't want to roll, play tennis or play golf. Because then you can do what you want to do, and then you got nobody else to blame because it's only an individual sport. If that's what you want to do, play tennis or play golf. But if you want to play a team sport, there's going to be things that you got to give up to get what you want.
I like that.
It's really great advice, actually.
By the way, it doesn't bother me. Some people are bothered that LeBron swore. It doesn't bother me. I swore at my son yesterday. He was being a goofball, and boom, got his attention.
Look, I don't have kids, but what is the point of sheltering your child in that situation? Were they never going to hear a curse word?
I've been swearing at my kids forever. They seem well adjusted. They like me mostly.
My coaches cursed at me a lot. I turned out mostly okay.
I had a basketball coach that broke a clipboard over my knee. I still like him.
Over your knee?
He was so frustrated. He went, "Coward, got bang!" And it broke. And I was like, well, that was awkward.
I mean, that's very illogical.
Yeah, but I mean, that was high school sports. I didn't care.
Yeah.
I needed it. I needed my coaches to yell at me.
That's really great advice, though, actually. And he wasn't yelling at all.
No, he's like, you got to be a teammate. If you don't want to be a teammate, go ski and play golf.
It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. So Aaron Rodgers got clobbered last year in Week 7. And a hit from Anthony Barr broke his collarbone. Aaron Rodgers was very upset about it, understandably so, but he didn't do it on purpose.
No, I didn't think it was a cheap shot.
Barr wasn't penalized, but something similar this year would have a different result. That's the word from NFL referee Pete Morelli, who said players will have to kind of roll to the side when they make that tackle instead of plopping down on them. So, yeah, Aaron Rodgers would be a foul this year as long as he's out of the pocket, established and all that. If he's running, it's not going to be the same.
So this year, that would be a penalty. Let me see this again. Here we go. Here we go. Hold on.
What are you supposed to do in that
spot?
spot?
That's not a penalty.
It's ridiculous. I get it. You're upset that Aaron Rodgers is out for the season. It's not good for the NFL for Aaron Rodgers to be hurt, but it's also football. It's getting ridiculous with this quarterback situation.
Well, I mean, everybody's really concerned about, listen, football. The NFL is the most popular football league. We have a lot of football league. We have a new football league coming out in the spring. We have college football. We have Canadian football in North America. The NFL is trying to take a step on curbing all this stuff. They may abandon kickoffs, but at some point, it's a rough physical game. It's like, listen, it's like being a cop. You carry a gun. There are times in your career you can't take away.
You can't be a police officer if you're scared to be in a dangerous situation. It's kind of the job. You can't regulate something like this. What is he supposed to do? Float?
That's not a cheap shot to me.
No, it's just an unfortunate ending that he popped his collarbone.
By the way, defensive players don't get shoe deals. They don't. Now the great ones don't even get a call back from their organization.
Right.
You know what's happening in football now. Defensive players are like, you won't pay us. We're being marginalized. We don't get the shoe deals. We don't get the... Well, you know what? Occasionally what they do get is a free shot at the quarterback, and they're going to take it. Ray Lewis is going into the Hall of Fame. Didn't everybody like watching Ray Lewis? I mean, at some point...
Listen, they're taking measures to make the game safer, and when there's $1 billion lawsuit about concussions, that's going to happen. But you can't change a rule like that.
I don't like it at all.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. All right, let me get my stuff together. Finally, the 2018 preseason coaches poll has been released. Last year's preseason poll had Alabama at number 1. Not shocking. That's exactly where the Tide are to start this season. They're followed by Clemson, Ohio State, Georgia, and Oklahoma.
No, it's everybody.
The top 5.
No, it looks like last year's.
Yes, much like last year's.
Yeah.
The 2 in the top 5 that we're kind of watching for some movement, obviously Oklahoma with the replacement of Baker Mayfield, and then Ohio State with all the stuff that's going on with Urban Meyer. That could drop dramatically.
I think Wisconsin's a little underrated. I think Wisconsin's going to end up in the playoff.
Do you like Michigan at 14?
I think Michigan's a little underrated too. I think the Big Ten, the northern part of college football, Wisconsin's good this year. Michigan's got an NFL quarterback. I think Michigan's underserved. I think Wisconsin's going to end up in the playoff. And I think Michigan... Listen, the SEC's got the best team. The best conference. If you go down to the 6th best team in the Big Ten, it's better than the 6th best team in the SEC. Primarily not because of athletes, because the coaching is so much better right now in the Big Ten and the ACC than it is in the SEC. Who's the 2nd best coach in the SEC? Kirby Smart? He was a valet for Nick Saban 2 years ago. So, yeah, I think Wisconsin's going to probably end up in the playoff, and Michigan's a little underserved. By the way, everybody complains about the NBA. It's the same teams every year. Look at the top 5. It's the same teams as last year. Same teams as 5 years ago, except Georgia now is really good. This is the reality of sports. If you're bothered by repetition, don't be a sports fan, because that's what we got in all sports.
Well, I think the difference with the NBA, at least, and the college football situation is in college football, it's all about the coaches and the program,
right,
and not the superstars, the kids.
Right.
It makes a big difference.
Yeah. Joy Taylor with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Live
I
News.
said last night, and I made this comparison, and I'm getting a lot of pushback, and it's like timeout. Lamar Jackson is the 2018 version of Tebow. Now, he's more talented than Tebow, and I think he will last in the NFL, and Tebow did not. The comparisons, though, are very clear. They both go to proud organizations. This is not the Bills and the Browns. This is Denver for Tebow and Baltimore. Neither one of them is close when they broke into the league to start. You watched Lamar Jackson last night. He ain't close. He's not even close to RG3. Tim Tebow was terrible his first 2 years in this league. But it didn't matter because both were popular in college. Both coaches are on the hot seat. The starting quarterback, Kyle Orton, Joe Flacco, were sort of over, though they've had success and they're talented. And I think last night reminded me of Tebow, where the stats aren't good, way more bad than good, but when Tebow would get out of that pocket and wiggle, you'd be like, ooh, I want to watch more of that. And Lamar got out of that pocket and wiggled, and you're like, ooh, I want to watch more of that. But Lamar Jackson, with Bobby Petrino, as a 3-year starter, had 3 games his last year, actually 5 in college. He couldn't complete more than 15 throws. He's totally limited as a thrower. It's a throwing quarterback league. People forget how bad Tebow was. Tebow won 6 straight games. Mark Schlereth was at Denver Broncos camp his first year, and he has told this story before.
But there was a time when I was watching practice, and I thought to myself, are you sure you're left-handed? That's how bad it was. I was like, my God, put that thing in your right hand and see if you're actually right-handed. It literally was that bad.
And by the way, Lamar Jackson's college coach, a great offensive coach, Bobby Petrino. Tim Tebow's college coach, a great offensive coach, Urban Meyer. So they both came in flawed. They're both projects. Sam Darnold, Andrew Luck were prospects. Cam Newton was a prospect. These guys are projects. They need time. Tebow should have never played first 2 years. Lamar shouldn't play for a year and a half. Now, Lamar's better than Tebow. They both had profound college careers, 3-year starters under profound offensive college coaches. They go to proud franchises that have won Super Bowls and get restless fast. And both have coaches on the hot seat. And Tebow came in, his stats were junk. But he ran and it was fun. And, oh my God, it made no sense. Lamar Jackson, his stats last night were bad. His stats are not going to be good for a year and a half. It's not going to matter. It's not going to matter that Kyle Orton was 1,000,000 times better than Tim Tebow. Kyle Orton was in a different galaxy than Tim Tebow. Even when Tebow was winning and Kyle Orton wasn't. Kyle Orton was still 1,000,000 times better than Tebow. Joe Flacco's 1,000,000 times better right now than Lamar Jackson. But now we have something that even Tebow didn't have as his benefit: Twitter and social media. And it's last night I'm watching him. I'm like, oh, he's awful. Of course he is. He's a project. He's not ready. He's not close. He's not close to RG3. It won't matter. Twitter's going to love him. This is what we live in now. Facts don't matter. Look at our president. Facts don't matter. They don't. If you like Tebow, you were all in. If you like Trump, you're all in. If you like Lamar, I'm watching last night, you're all in. Mark my words. It's going to be fascinating to watch, but I feel the same way watching Tebow as Lamar. Lamar's better. Lamar, I do believe, potentially could be a franchise quarterback. I never bought that ever with Tebow. But I feel the same way. I rushed home. I wanted to watch it, and I was really not impressed throwing. But, man, when they ran, I was like, oh, well, that's fun.
Well, Colin, everybody can't win. So maybe for the teams that can't win, they can at least be interesting for us. That play that everyone is flipping out about when he's running and he, does a little move, that's the biggest indictment for me.
No, I don't like the running stuff.
I don't mind that you run, but you got to slide. What are you doing? You got to slide there.
Listen, some people are just more interesting to watch. Some actors, some hosts, some quarterbacks. Tim Tebow, listen, it would be bad. You couldn't take your eyes off Tebow. Cam Newton sometimes has this quality. Even when he's failing, I'm like, oh my God, he's got a howitzer. Even his failing's fascinating.
Well, I mean, you can be an interesting writer and not win a Pulitzer. Like, there's levels to everything.
Right. But this year, he's going to play, and he's not going to be ready, and he's not going to be nearly as good as not only Flacco, but RG3. But he's going to play, and the world's going to go crazy. Eric Mangini's around the corner. He's got some plays he wants to break down for us. When you're ready for a new car, Hyundai is on your team. Shopper Assurance Program offers flexible test driving, transparent pricing, 3-day worry-free vehicle exchange, streamlined purchasing. Be a part of Team Hyundai. Go to HyundaiUSA.com/shopper assurance. All right, we have all sorts of fun stuff, Joe. We have Eric Mangini back, 2-time coach, head coach, Browns, Jets. And I'll get to the Randy Moss thing because you know Randy Moss well, going to the Hall of Fame. I want to start with Lamar Jackson. Now, listen. Let me state my case. He's better than Tebow, who I never thought was a draftable quarterback. And by the way, that was an unpopular opinion years ago when I was at ESPN. I'm like, this is not an NFL quarterback. I didn't care that he won. I said the same thing with Johnny Manziel. He's not draftable. Okay, so Lamar's draftable. I don't think he's ready to play. Last night you watch him, and obviously very frenetic. He was playing a little hot. I get that. Appears to be better on the right side than the left side. A little more comfortable. Runs too much for my taste. He's not a huge athlete like Cam or Ben that can take the hits, and he does get hit unlike Russell Wilson. A lot of people are saying, I think he's going to generate a lot of excitement. But you could watch that game last night and go, ooh, Lord, he's not even close to RG3. What did you see with his interception, for instance?
Well, before we go there, the first thing is he's a rookie quarterback in the first preseason game, and it's hard. It's hard being a rookie in the NFL. It's really hard being a quarterback in the NFL. This is the second half of the first preseason game. There's no game planning involved whatsoever, and RG3 should be way ahead of where this guy is. All I was looking for last night was how was he operationally? Were there false start penalties? Did he fumble the snap? Did he control things that way? And I thought that was fine. In terms of his overall performance, so much is made about the interception. and the throw that he made. But there's a lot of good stuff that happened on that play as well. I can show you right here. Let's take a look at this, because it's not the end of the world like most people think. So on the interception, what they were doing is they had a fade route on the outside.
Yeah.
They were taking the fullback. He was going to go down the middle, and then they had a little hook route down here to the left. And he goes through his read progression. He's looking to see where the corner is. The corner's on top, don't throw the fade. He doesn't throw it. If there's a safety in the middle field, don't throw the fullback. He doesn't throw it. So now he knows his read is down here to the left-hand side. The throw's not great, but the wide receiver could help him a lot too. There's plenty of separation between the corner and the wide receiver right here. The receiver should push up 2 more yards, but he starts to throttle down early, so the corner throttles down. Now he's supposed to break it downhill, but instead he breaks it flat. He breaks it flat, which again allows the defensive back to come up and intercept the ball. So the receiver could definitely help him. Now, all that being said, if he throws it anywhere on the outside part of the receiver's body, it's not an interception. But in terms of the read progression, that was good. In terms of the help that he should be getting from wide receivers, especially if he's playing with the first group, that's going to be better. But to sit here and look at that one interception and say, okay, this is the end of the world, it's not at all. It's not at all.
How much value do you even put as a coach into preseason games?
We would use preseason games like practice, and it would ramp up to the third preseason game. But depending on where we were in the install, that's what we do. So if we were defensively, if we were in the heavy zone install, then we'd play a whole game in zone. If we were in the heavy blitz install, we may blitz the whole game. It had nothing to do with who the opponent was. It was what we wanted to work on. It was the things we wanted to achieve. Sometimes you throw shots because you're not going to throw shots during the season, and you want to establish tendencies that are false tendencies. You mix and match personnel. Now, when you get to the third preseason game, there's an element of install. It's much more of a true pattern, and you're teaching guys how we're going to conduct business during the season. But this is 1 of 5 for these teams.
Yeah, this team plays 5.
5. So when you're dealing with 5 preseason games, you don't want to get people hurt either. You've got an extra opportunity to get guys hurt. So I think, is this start perfect for Lamar? No, but it's not going to be perfect for any of these rookies.
Let's talk about 2 things that happened last night. First of all, for the last 15 years, the NFL said that if the ball hit the ground, you lost possession. Now, my argument, I always use my phone argument. Here's my phone. Even when it hits the desk, I've got possession of my phone. The NFL, when I grew up as a kid, that was the case. Then for the last 12, 15 years, they said, no, Colin lost possession of his phone, even though I have my phone. Last night, I think the NFL is going back to the more common sense rule, play the tape.
You're really looking, does he have control before the ball hits the ground? That's the whole point of this play. And it looks like you can make an argument either way. Can you say he definitively does not have control is the question. And in that case, you got to go stance.
And what about hitting the ground? Ball hitting the ground.
If he has control first, he kept control after it hit the ground, he's good. Whatever the official ruled on the field, if it's not absolutely clear and obvious that he made a mistake, go with the ruling on the field, put the ball in play, and move on. Well, remember, the ruling on the field is
After
a catch.
reviewing the play, the ruling on the field stands.
There we go.
First down.
Okay, I like the call, did you?
Yeah, I like the call. With all these rule changes, they're in the spirit of trying to get to the right answer. But there's going to be a bunch of stuff that comes up this year with the new rule where people are going to look back at moments and say, well, that shouldn't have been a catch. That obviously shouldn't have been a catch. And then we're going to start debating, is this the right answer? To me, as long as there's consistency from staff to staff on how they call it, the group of officials, then you can coach off that. Then you can teach off that. When it becomes one set of officials calls it more aggressively, one set of officials calls it less aggressively, and you go into a game and games are decided by like an element of subjectivity that you can't anticipate, that's when it becomes an issue.
Now, I think they're going to solve this. Here's the new helmet rule. Let's roll the tape, Sam, on this.
You almost have to be a contortionist to avoid this.
Yeah, but I think if you look at the verbiage rule, I don't see this player lowering his head to initiate contact with an opponent. It looks like he's trying to drive his shoulder. He's got his head out in front. It's up a little bit. I think this is just not a foul. what they've been told to do is just throw. In the preseason, just throw. They're going to take a library of plays and try and hopefully by the time we get to Philadelphia, week 1, they'll have a really good understanding of what they want as a foul and what isn't.
That sounds like what you're doing as a coach. They're just this rule to me is the catch rule. They're figuring it out, and we're just watching them figure it out.
Yeah, this is like installing a new defense. You think that it's going to work one way, but you've got to try it against a lot of different sets. You got to see how it really works, and then you got to go back and say, okay, this works, this doesn't work, and they're going to overcall it during preseason, and that's always the case. It's a little bit like a new employee where they may check the expense reports a bunch of times to make sure that that they're not doing something down the line to send a message. To me, this is the same thing. They're gonna call it a ton of times. They're gonna get back together and say, okay, this works, this doesn't work. Now the issue is how it eventually plays out during the course of the season, because games are going to be won and lost based on the enforcement of this rule.
And they're going to be fine. This is why Roquan Smith, the rookie linebacker for Chicago, apparently was working on the words. He's like, can you take guaranteed money out if I get called on that?
Yeah, and look, I've won games because of rules. The tuck rule is a great rule in my mind. A lot of people feel the tuck rule is a poor rule, but depends on where you stand, depends on where you sit. So I thought that was a good adjustment. Now, but other people, there's been other times when I was a head coach of the Browns. Remember they used to have if you forced a guy out of bounds, but his feet would have been in bounds,
yes,
then it was a catch. I lost a game because of that rule in Cleveland. So some games you're going to win because of the rules, some games you're going to lose, but the learning of how to enforce this rule is going to affect people's futures this year.
By the way, Randy Moss and T.O., it's supposed to be both of them there this weekend in Canton. T.O. won't be petty. Randy will be. We'll celebrate. He'll be humble and grateful. It'll be amazing. You've got a Randy Moss story, which I think is funny.
Not funny to me.
Okay, I've always thought Randy was better than T.O., not only this weekend by showing up. I always thought he was better. But if you go look at their numbers, there's touchdowns, receiving yards, teams, baggage. There's a lot of similarities. Give me your Randy Moss story. How great was he?
So I learned a very hard lesson. He had gotten Oakland moved on from the Patriots.
Oakland moved on.
Didn't really have much production in Oakland. Didn't play during the preseason
at all.
And so you're thinking, how big a threat is this guy really at this point?
And you were opening with you were the Jets coach.
Yes, we were opening with him. So we had a little bit of defense catered towards him, but not what you would normally do for a guy of his stature based on the performance that he had, the no performance in the preseason and the limited performance in Oakland. And he comes out and hangs 180 yards on us, and it was unbearable to watch. And it was one of those lessons that if you're dealing with a Hall of Famer, even if they've had some downtime, you better have a package in place just in case that pops back up. And we were not prepared, and he was catching balls in double coverage. He was between a corner and a safety. There's a backside safety. He goes up high points, it takes it away. Just.
By the way, it is again. We show the numbers. Randy and T.O. are very close. I think Randy's better, and I think I think Randy's more coachable. I always thought T.O. was a handful. I think Randy's actually, from what I've understood, Randy was actually very willing to be coached.
Friends of mine in New England said he was great to work with, incredibly smart, understood not just what he had to do offensively, but how defenses were going to play, and he was fantastic that way. Now, T.O. was a pretty special guy, too. I remember the Super Bowl that we played against him when he was with Philly.
And he was hurt.
They said there was no chance that he could play. Not only does he play, but we did account for T.O. We had double coverage on T.O., and he still caught a ton of balls.
Yes.
And was hard to deal with.
He had a great Super Bowl.
It was one of the most impressive performances that I can remember from an athlete, especially based off of what he had to do to play in that game.
So you were told in that Super Bowl, when you beat Philadelphia, you were told he wouldn't play.
He was not going to play. There is no chance with this injury that this guy would play. But we factored that he may be able to somehow figure it out. But during the course of the week, you're thinking, there's no way this guy's going to play.
He didn't play in the NFC Championship.
Yeah, and then you're thinking, okay, even if he does play, how effective could he possibly be with this injury? And he was outstanding.
By the way, Tom Brady, it came out in a book, and we don't have much time, could have snitched on the two guys, that John and Jimmy in Boston. Word is today he didn't snitch on them.
Okay, I have a hard time with the book. Like, where are we getting this information from? Why are we validating that this is actually all the inside scoop? This is exactly how it went down. Like, I have a hard time believing that they were able to get inside the building and get all of this inside stuff that nobody else seems to be able to get, but somehow they figured out a way to crack that code.
Sounds like fake news to me.
Well, I'm not going to, I refuse to use that term and validate that term. But I do have a hard time seeing that.
Last hour coming up.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific.
This is The Herd Live, hour number 3. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening. In Los Angeles, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, FS1. By the way, we're going to have new music to start the hours. Probably coming up in the next month. May have a contest, whatevs. Some of you are asking. It's not that big of a deal. It's like 5, 7, 7, 8 seconds. Bothers some of you that we have music. Now we don't have music, blah, blah, blah. Joy Taylor's joining me. You came to the show. You got 2 minutes of the old music, and now I can't use the music. Don't want to get into it. You know, it's what attorneys do. And now we got to find some new music. We're going to have a contest.
I did like the old music.
So did I.
But
no,
I'm excited for a contest, though.
Yeah, I told my bosses before football, let's announce the winner on Labor Day or something. We'll have a contest, a new open, blah, blah, blah. I've been using an open for 15 years, and somebody stepped in and said, can't use it. What do I care? I mean, seriously, what do I?
People don't like change, Colin.
I'm okay with it. My whole life's been changed. You and I moved all over the country, not together, but we've moved around, so I'm okay with it.
You got to embrace change.
Got to embrace change.
Nothing is forever.
All right, so Jason McIntyre is coming up in 15 minutes. He is going to come after me hard in 15 minutes. And bad news for Heisman Trophy winners coming up later in Best for Last. But we saw Lamar Jackson make his preseason debut last night, and well, I've been saying it for months. Lamar Jackson's a more talented version of Tim Tebow, and all I get is pushback. All I get is pushback. And I say, no, you watch what's going to happen. Baltimore and Denver were proud franchises with Super Bowls, getting very frustrated with their head coach on the hot seat. Both guys were overdrafted. Both guys are projects, not prospects. Tim Tebow was a project. He was never a prospect. Lamar Jackson's a project. He's not Sam Darnold. He's not Josh Rosen. You watched them last night. He's not even close. He's not even close. First of all, first 2 times he gets the ball, he scrambles. Third one, hands off, 3 and out. Next time he gets the ball, second drive, scrambles. Took him until the 6th play till he threw a pass. By the way, it was 0 for 3 to the left side, 3 for 3 to the right side. So right now he's way more comfortable throwing to one side of the field and running to the other side of the field. There was way more bad than good. He's not close to RG3 at this point. He's not. Forget Flacco. RG3's not as good as Flacco. Lamar's not even close to RG3, and it won't matter. It never mattered with Tebow. People forget how bad Tebow was. Tebow was terrible. He was on 4th string in Denver. They still put him in first year. Why? Because he was fun. He was new. It's a proud fan base. The coach was on the hot seat. They tried something new. They went into a losing streak, and let's put Tebow out there, and Tebow was terrible. By the way, Tebow was terrible his second year, but it didn't matter because you were crazy in love with a guy. Fan is short for fanatic. When Tim Tebow was tearing up the world, he, like Lamar, was a first-round pick. I was like, he's not ready to play quarterback in the NFL. Saturday Night Live did a skit, funniest thing Saturday Night Live's ever done that's related to sports, and it was the most honest and accurate thing ever done in the history of Saturday Night Live in sports. Do you remember this?
Here's the thing, okay? If we're going to keep doing this, you guys got to meet me halfway out there. I mean, let's face it. It's not a good week if every week I, the Son of God, have to come in, drop everything, and bail out the Denver Broncos in the 4th quarter, okay? I'm a busy guy.
So, wait, you're only helping in the 4th quarter?
Yeah. Yeah. Have you watched the game film, Tim, of the first half? I mean, come on, 3 for 16? You know, I could throw better, and I'm 2010 years old, huh?
Oh, God, Tebow was awful. And it didn't matter. Matt Prater, the kicker, and the defense was winning games. It didn't matter. You didn't like the coach. You didn't like the starter. You wanted something new, flashy, and fun. Listen, Lamar Jackson, with the best offensive coach arguably in college football, as a 3-year starter, completed less than 60% of his throws last year. That's as a 3-year starter with Bobby Petrino. In 5 of his games last year as a 3-year starter with Bobby Petrino, an NFL coach coaching in college. In 5 of his games, he completed 15 passes or less. Lamar Jackson's not ready to play in the NFL as a starting quarterback. He's not as good as RG3. He's not close. He looked nervous. The best moments were when he ran, just like college. He's a project. He's not a prospect. He was overdrafted. He was a 2nd or a 3rd round guy that you give 1.5 to 2 years of development, and then I think he can, become something. And everybody's going, Colin, that's not fair. It's totally fair. Folks, think about how big Tebow got without Twitter, without Instagram. I checked on Twitter last night. Lamar was pretty awful. And all I heard was, we got a new starting quarterback in the NFL. Welcome to 2018. He's not even close to RG3. Denver with Tebow and Lamar Jackson with Baltimore have a lot in common. You got a coach in a hot seat. You got huge rivals in your division pulling away at the time from the Broncos, pulling away now from Baltimore. A popular college quarterback gets overdrafted. I mean, Tim Tebow was really overdrafted. Lamar Jackson was slightly overdrafted. You have a fan base getting restless, and here you have a young quarterback who runs right now better than he throws, and he's new, flashy, and fun, and he's hope. He is hope. And now, add Twitter and stir. Of course Lamar's not close. I've never thought he was close. That's why I keep calling him a project. I never call him a prospect. Sam Darnold's a prospect. Okay, Baker Mayfield's a prospect. They'll play this year, and they'll be able to move the chains. They'll be able to go. No. This is a project. All right. Okay, this weekend, they're calling it the most talented Hall of Fame class ever. Randy Moss, Brian Urlacher, Terrell Owens, and Ray Lewis. Just 4 of them. They're saying it's the greatest Hall of Fame class ever. Of course, T.O. is not going to show up. Never forget this about movies. A good, solid movie can be ruined by a bad ending. And, by the way, a good, solid movie can be called excellent with a great ending. Usual Suspects. It's a good movie. Great ending. People now say, great movie. Not really. Great ending. T.O. and Randy Moss had a ton in common. They really did. They both played about 218 games. They both played for 5 teams. Their receiving yards, receiving touchdowns, teams, games, almost identical. They both came with some baggage. They were both from the rural South. They both went to smaller colleges than you think their talent would land them in. But Randy Moss, this weekend and today, you watched them last night, feels so much bigger than T.O. Because the lasting image of Randy Moss will be this weekend in Canton, Ohio. Humbled, emotional, perhaps crying, thanking people. And T.O. will look small and petty and immature somewhere in Chattanooga. I'm sure it will be a charming festivity, but pouting and petty. America forgives often, but to be forgiving, you have to be willing to have some humility. Randy Moss has all sorts of baggage. T.O. has all sorts of baggage. They were both remarkable talents. Same part of the country, same stats mostly across the board. But Randy Moss this weekend is joining another team. Will cry as he does and will let us celebrate with him. T.O. will be holding out. Yep. A good movie can be ruined by a bad ending. And as Randy Moss steps to the podium and speaks this weekend and his son speaks for him, he will look bigger than ever and will forget the times he drove us absolutely crazy. And we'll think about T.O. and his pettiness, and he will never look smaller when compared to Randy Moss. Jason McIntyre is coming after as we get ready for the Hall of Fame ceremony. The induction ceremony in Canton, Ohio. Joy, have you been to Canton, Ohio?
I was there last year for Jason's induction, yes.
How was it?
It was awesome. It's really a great weekend. The best part of the weekend, though, everyone thinks is the speeches. But if you're a huge NFL fan, you should try and make a weekend once in your lifetime to go. But Friday nights, they actually do a big banquet, and they have all of the Hall of Famers that, obviously are still with us. They introduce all of them, and they have this line of guys. Yeah. And then they introduce each new Hall of Famer, and they kind of walk down through this receiving line of all the Hall of Famers. It's really an amazing moment. And they give them their gold jacket there at the banquet. It's awesome. But it's a great weekend.
Jason McIntyre around the corner. Hyundai has a new shopper assurance program, flexible test driving, streamlined purchasing, transparent pricing. HyundaiUSA.com/shopper assurance. Learn more for yourself. Jason McIntyre wants to go after me today. TheBigLead.com. Speak for yourselves. Fox Sports Radio Saturdays. So I came out with something this week.
It's fun to go after you, Cowherd.
Well, I had
You're an easy target.
I am a believer that generally, if you look at sports, we're all caught up in parity, and the big thing now is in the NBA. Well, it's just, only so many teams can win it. And my argument is, if you have 6 or 7 teams at the top, that's all college football has. College football this year, Alabama can win.
Right.
Clemson can win. Washington can win.
The same 5 teams every year.
I think Wisconsin's really good. Georgia. You got about 6 teams in college football. If you look at the NFL, in the NBA, by the way, Golden State can win. I have Boston beating them next year. We know Toronto will be better with Kawhi. Philly's good. Lakers good.
Right.
Okay, so these are my 7 teams I believe can win the Super Bowl. And by the way, in all of them except New England, my fringe team was New England. Okay.
Let's start here. When did you compile this list? Because there is such a glaring error.
Which one?
That massive error on this list. Where are the Minnesota Vikings? You know they have the second best odds to win the Super Bowl according to Vegas?
Yeah.
10-1.
Yeah.
They're not even on your list?
Well, no. Minnesota was my last team.
Okay.
And the reason being is, when is the last team that got a new quarterback and a new offensive coordinator and won a Super Bowl? It doesn't happen.
Well, new quarterback, we could go Drew Brees in when he made the move to New Orleans, eventually won a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
right?
But what'd you say? It wasn't year one.
Not in year one. And Peyton Manning, Denver, he did
But
okay.
he didn't win in year one.
Not in year one.
So now people forget this. Kyle Shanahan popped in Atlanta year 2. People forget this. It takes a coordinator and a quarterback 2 years to pop.
It's funny you mentioned the coordinator. He actually went to college where I went to. I covered him. We stayed friends. He knows football, okay? He was just in Philadelphia last year with Foles, with Wentz. I trust him a lot, okay? Now, my big thing with missing on the Vikings is this is a team who had as good a defense in net yards per play as the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is an awesome defense, Colin. Seriously, the Vikings are ready to go in, stop people, and then they finally have a quarterback who can take them over the hump. Think about that NFC Championship game when they lost to the Eagles. What was the reason? It's Case Keenum. He was bad. He lost the game for them in the first quarter with that tipped interception. And I look at Kirk Cousins coming in there. Colin, to me, he's a top 12 quarterback in the NFL.
No.
Remember, that Washington offensive line was a train wreck, one of the least healthy lines in the league. Now you add Dalvin Cook, who you loved in college.
Yes.
Looked very good running back last year until he got injured. Great receivers, maybe one of the best combos in the league. And the defense is just nasty. I think we went over this in the offseason. The Vikings may have, with the Eagles, the best roster in the NFL. Young, talented.
I think
this is a loaded team.
The Rams and the Eagles and the Chargers, I know those are 2 LA teams, have great rosters. Yeah. I think the Giants roster is underrated. Houston has a good roster. I go back to this. New coordinator, new coach. To me, it's going to take a year.
If you don't like my Vikings, let me get 3 more for you that I think you missed.
Right.
Okay, so you know the NFL, like you said earlier, unlike the NBA, teams can go from the middle or the bottom to the top.
Yes.
Eagles last year.
Yes.
Nobody had them go to the Super Bowl.
Right.
Okay, 2 years ago, Falcons weren't ready to go to the Super Bowl. They get there. The Houston Texans, I'm going to just throw that out there for you. Very good defense. Awesome quarterback who lit the league up. He was poised, Deshaun Watson, to set every single rookie quarterback record that existed. Like all Peyton's records are going down after just 6 games. So I love the Houston Texans as a live dog in the AFC, which is weak.
Okay, the AFC is weaker, but I will say this. I have a belief you cannot win a World Series with a bad bullpen. Because once you get to the playoffs, 7th inning on is situational. Right. You're facing the best bullpen's best hitters. You can't find a bad bullpen that's won a World Series in 20 years. You cannot win a Super Bowl similarly with a bad offensive line.
Yes.
Houston's O-line is awful.
Okay. So you want a good offensive line?
Yes.
All right. Your favorite team,
All right.
the Dallas Cowboys. Now, Colin, I heard you out driving in here. I heard you prattling on about the receivers stink and who's going to throw the ball. Listen, 2 years ago, 13-3. All they did was run the football. Time of possession, they ate the clock, and the defense didn't have to be on the field long. Why can't they do that again? Just riddle me this. Why can't they just feed Zeke, keep the ball away from the opponent, and win games in like a 17-14, 17-13 manner? Why can't that happen for Dallas?
I don't think that's inconceivable. I did not have them. I said, let's show my Super Bowl contenders again. The 6 I feel good about are Pittsburgh, Philly, Green Bay, Atlanta, New Orleans, Rams. I put the Patriots in for one reason. The division's god-awful.
Yes,
they have a chance to go 6-0, which means bye and 2 home games. Now, I don't think they'll do that because I think they'll be choppy all year. They're rebuilding the O-line. The Vikings was the first team out for me.
But you have almost all first-place teams there, Colin. They have brutal schedules. Look at Dallas' schedule.
Okay, but here's the problem. With Philadelphia, the Giants, and Alex Smith, they're not going to be a 13-3 team. They're not getting a bye. They're not getting home field. They're going to have to go to either an Atlanta, a Green Bay,
that can be a
Minnesota, a New Orleans. I think Dallas could, even if Dallas won the division, I am more of a 9-7. Everybody beats up on everybody. But that's road playoff games, back-to-back weeks in New Orleans, Minnesota. I don't think they can do that.
You're also a chemistry guy. I believe Dez Bryant, similarly to Carmelo Anthony in OKC, is addition by subtraction.
I agree with that.
You get Carmelo out of that locker room, I really think OKC is going to do better this year.
I actually
Dez
agree.
Bryant, nightmare, Colin. Come on, he's yelling at the quarterback, ranting at the head coach. That's one of the most underplayed stories in the division. Dez Bryant is addition by subtraction for the Cowboys.
All right, what's your other team? So
right.
I
this
told
last
you.
one is risky because I know you hate their quarterback, and they were first-place team last year, but the Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's stop. Wait, let me get this out. The Jaguars led the Patriots in Foxborough by 10 with 8 minutes left in the AFC title game. They led by 10. They dominated that game.
Yeah.
There's a team that went into Pittsburgh, just embarrassed Mike Tomlin, put him on the hot seat, okay? And then they go to New England and had that game won. This is a team, and again, I'm a firm believer, run the football. Keep it away from the opponent, the good quarterbacks in the AFC with like Roethlisberger and Brady. And then that Jacksonville defense, they have the best pair of cornerbacks in the league. On the big lead this week, I ranked the best cornerbacks in the NFL. They have 2 of the top 5.
Yeah.
You can't throw the ball against them.
Here's my knock. With all those things said, the AFC was weaker last year. They didn't face Deshaun Watson or Andrew Luck, and they lost both games to Tennessee. It is reasonable to assume that in their division, they have easily the worst quarterback. I can never pick a team to go to a Super Bowl. Okay, so
this is all fair.
In review, let's be honest. Okay, so let's go to the 4 teams you said should crack my top 7. I want to review it, crystallize it, distill it for the audience. Minnesota, I like a lot. That's your best argument. New coordinator, new quarterback. I don't think that hits year 1. Your next argument was Texans. I don't think a bad O-line can win the Super Bowl. Dallas, I think they're going to get chewed up in that division. Even if they won it, it'll be
that Redskins?
Philadelphia on the road. Philadelphia,
yeah.
New York. So what's going to happen if they win it? They're going to have to. They're not going to get a bye. They're going to go road New Orleans, road Green Bay. I don't like it. And then your last team, Jacksonville. The AFC was a mess last year. I mean, who was the third best team? Kansas City, Alex Smith. We don't trust them in the playoffs. Chargers were the hottest team late, and they didn't get in and do anything. So to me, Jacksonville to me is, if you have the 4th best quarterback in a division, I can't pick you to be a 12-11 win team, get a home bye, home games. I like teams, by the way, that get home games in the playoffs. I like teams that get a bye in the playoffs. That means something to me.
So you're out on the Cowboys despite the fact that they have the best offensive line. Because see, and this is what I didn't like about your argument. You'll say I can't pick a team without an offensive line. Well, the Cowboys have a great offensive line.
So let's look at let's go back to my teams. Rams. Great coach, good offensive line. Saints, great coach, great quarterback.
Let's stop on Rams. They went to the playoffs last year, right? Rookie head coach and Jared Goff, second-year quarterback. Isn't that similar to one of the teams I mentioned? I mean, Deshaun Watson,
again,
DeFilippo.
Time out. They couldn't win a playoff game. So you just
blame the special teams. I think they fumbled 2 punts in the first half.
And that's why they couldn't win a playoff team. So Rams, good coach, good quarterback, good O-line. Saints, good coach, good quarterback, great offensive line. Atlanta. All these teams except New England, and I even think Green Bay does a great job drafting and developing young offensive linemen. Every one of these teams except New England has a very good offensive line and a very good quarterback. The only exception is New England, and I do give them the benefit of the doubt because their division is awful. Yeah. They're going to go 5-1 and 6-0, and they're going to get a bye and have potentially 2 home games. And it's Foxborough in January. It's brutal.
Can I turn back the clock on the Patriots for 1 second, Colin?
Sure.
Okay. Last year, I know everybody said, "Oh, they're going to Super Bowl," all this. You remember that game in Pittsburgh, okay? If the NFL didn't butcher that call, they lose that game. Yeah. Don't get home field advantage. Yeah. They ain't going to the Super Bowl, okay? Then in against Jacksonville, they're trailing by 10 with 8 minutes left, have a lucky comeback against a young quarterback, and in the Super Bowl, they gave up 600 yards of offense to Nick Foles.
I said
Bill Belichick, the genius. So I know everybody loves the Patriots, and yes, the division stinks. Keep an eye on my Jets, just for the record. I don't think it's going to be as easy in the AFC this year for Tom Brady. I mean, I know we keep saying that the end is near, but if you look at those 3 games, Steelers, Jaguars, Eagles, I mean, they weren't the better team in either of those 3 games. That's a fact.
No, they had the worst personnel. If you put Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, and Philadelphia's personnel up there with New England, they had the 4th best personnel. But you know what? They had the best coach and the best quarterback.
Not for much longer, hopefully.
Okay. By the way, let's give Brady love.
Yes.
There's a new book out with Brady. And according to the book, all Tom Brady had to do to get on the field and not miss a month was write $1 million check and throw Jimmy and Johnny under the bus. And he didn't. He would not be a snitch, unlike everybody else in Boston. We've all seen the movie Departed, where everybody's squealing to the cops. Brady could have played, according to this book, had he just thrown a couple of guys, Jimmy and Johnny, under the bus, and he didn't. Yeah. You have to respect this.
So you mentioned Departed. I'll see your Departed and raise you that bank robbery movie with Ben Affleck. Joy, do you know the movie I'm talking about?
Town.
Town, yes, thank you. Okay, there was a code, an omerta in that movie where you don't snitch. And Boston is one of these very cities where it's like,
insular.
Listen, you protect your guys. Brady protecting his guys? I think that's kind of a cool move, right? Yep. Is it not? I mean, you got to look out for your dudes. They've been with him forever, right?
Right. Listen, we live in a time...
I know. I'm built to hate Tom Brady and the Patriots because I'm a Jets fan, and they've just killed my Jets forever. But I respect Tom Brady. You have to. How can you not?
By the way, Lance Armstrong threw his entire cycling team under a bus. Yeah. Clemens, his trainer. Ryan Braun, the tester. I mean, good God. Every NFL head coach rebuilding, they fired their coordinators. Tom Brady, all he has to do is basically say, yeah, these 2 guys who work part-time at Costco. It was those guys.
Stop.
And by the way, wouldn't do it.
That is called respect the guy. And what happened? He ended up getting suspended, right?
For 4 games, and it'll be on his obituary. It'll ding his legacy. He could have literally played.
Is that in the first sentence of his obit?
No way. No,
I don't think it dings his legacy.
It doesn't for me because I think everybody's playing the edges.
I mean, he's had so many Super Bowl comebacks in the 4th quarter. He's got the most rings of anybody. I don't even think it's like a top 3 thing of his career.
What would you say? What would Brady's legacy be? You would say. Largely considered the greatest quarterback of all time.
Most Super Bowl rings.
So that's the first thing. Okay. The second thing is Brady joined with Bill Belichick for the greatest coach combo of all time.
Then you look at like the Seattle end of the game where they came back and then the goal line.
Obituary, you're going macro. So you're acknowledging he's the best at it. You're acknowledging Belichick combo. I think the third thing, it didn't come without bumps and bruises. And I think Deflategate's your 3rd paragraph.
Above the Falcons' comeback in the Super Bowl, the greatest comeback ever?
That's micro. When you write obituaries, you take 3 to 4 macro things. The first thing is best ever.
Six-round
the second thing is Belichick and he best tandem ever. Third thing is there were some bumps here. And then you go back to some specifics at the end of the obituary on his family, the documentary, his health.
TB12?
No, I think that's part of it. You're like, at the end of Tom's, that's like the 5th paragraph.
I don't think we're going to get invited to this this situation.
What do you
I don't
mean?
think we're going to be. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be the one signing up to write his obituary.
No, we're not.
You only say nice things about people when they pass.
Do you?
Yes.
Like Donald Trump's obituary.
No,
You're not going to have any negatives?
I was the greatest at everything.
Make America great again. The end.
The end.
I think
I
obituaries.
invented everything. Everything is the best.
Don't obituaries have negative
The end.
stuff?
Not,
They don't?
Not,
Paragraph,
not
second or
usually.
third?
I know
Or you
who's not
bury-
writing mine, either of you.
I thought obituaries
I'm
had
a
negative
positive
stuff.
guy, Joy. Come on, I'm sunshine
Really?
every day. Yeah, I'm
You were
positive.
actually trying to insert a lot of nice things
No,
about
Cowherd,
go, yeah.
Cowherd, a tremendous broadcaster, once dyed his hair. It didn't go well. Like if that's not in there, that's irresponsible. I had for a month the dumbest looking head in the history of television.
That's not how we want to remember you.
No, I don't want you to remember me, but it's going to be like in the third paragraph.
That's like the stuff that you talk about afterwards when you're like, like remember
Drilling
that
down
time
a
Colin
little bit.
By the
dyed
way,
his hair?
are you a Randy Moss or a T.O. guy?
I'm a Moss guy.
So am I.
Yeah, I'm not. No. I don't want to bash T.O. He just followed me on Instagram.
Oh, that's nice.
So I don't know if that means something, but I don't want to slam the guy.
Thank you for being
I gotta keep it
transparent
real,
about
right?
that.
I mean, come
yes.
on.
I think I will say this. Randy Moss and T.O. have a lot of similarities. 5 teams, a lot of baggage, a lot of greatness. I think Randy looks really big and T.O. looks real petty not showing up.
And
I do.
T.O. had a lot of moments, but I feel like Randy's were bigger and more just awesomer.
No,
You know,
I mean, listen.
That's not even a word, but you
no,
know what
but
I mean.
I do think Randy's biggest stuff is bigger than T.O.'s biggest stuff. There's a lot of similarities, but
T.O.'s biggest stuff is negative. If you're doing the T.O. obit, and I'm not touching that one, Joy, a lot of it is like standing on the star and getting decked and all the negative, like sit-ups in the driveway during a
Randy's biggest
holdout,
stuff is when he conjoined with Brady.
I
I
think
think
the
that-
pulling down the pants celebration in the end zone.
But by the way, it should be noted that was a touchdown.
Straight cash, homie. Remember
That
that
was
interview
funny.
in the
I like
parking
that.
lot? Yeah, I'm a Moss guy. I love him.
All right. Jason McIntyre, see him later on Speak for Yourself. When you're ready for a new car, Hyundai's on your team shopper assurance program. They have 3-day worry-free vehicle exchange, flexible test driving, transparent pricing. Go to HyundaiUSA.com/shopper assurance. Joy Taylor with the news.
No.
Turn on the news.
This is the Herd Line News.
All right, we're giving Tom Brady a lot of love today. Although I do want to say I don't think that the stop snitching movement began in Boston, but we're gonna keep it there for right now since he didn't throw his equipment managers under the bus. And today is his 41st birthday. Last year, the Patriots celebrated his 40th birthday by bringing 5 goats to represent his 5 championship rings. 5 goats for the goat. They're so cute, so adorable. Well, this year they got creative and they made a 1,200-pound cake for his 41st birthday.
Oh, God.
It's made of red velvets, which is my favorite, and vanilla, which is whatever. And it can feed up to 8,000 people, and this is at camp. But it's nice, though. Everybody's getting cake.
That's very nice.
Do you always eat the cake
Oh,
at
yeah.
the office?
Yeah.
Did you have some of my cake?
Probably would you have cake?
We had cake the first day I was here.
Yeah, I think so. I had cake.
Yeah, cake is good.
Big cake guy.
Congrats to Tom Brady. Happy birthday. All right, Peyton Manning visited the Raiders training camp practice on Thursday. And he believes John Gruden has one intangible, love intangibles, that his players will respond to. Passion. Let's take a listen.
Ultimately, I think the role of any coach is to get his players to play hard for him. And there's different ways of, Tony Dungy, you had so much respect for him, you didn't want to disappoint him, so we played hard for him. And it was a very effective way of leading. And I think John's, just his passion for it just shows, and he wears it on his sleeve, and players will respond to that.
He is. I will say this about Gruden. Nobody loves football as much as John Gruden. Now, his players, that may wear out players after a couple years, but he loves the game.
We talk about this all the time with Pete Carroll with that rah-rah kumbaya stuff. Now, I'm not saying that John Gruden is a kumbaya guy, but he's definitely a rah-rah guy. So you got to be careful with that. And my only pushback on this, like playing hard for the coach thing, I think Tony Dungy has kind of that element. But Bill Belichick is not somebody you want to play hard for. And they have 5 championships. So to me, I look at what is the most successful formula for sustained success is a system, right? Because you have all these people that all have to be on the same page. You almost have to have very clear boundaries and a set culture, right? And what he's trying to do is establish a culture. But where I get kind of weary on it is you want to play with passion and you got to play for your coach. Like, that's cool in high school. That's cool in college. But eventually that's going to wear on the guy in his 10th year who's like, yeah, coach, I've heard this speech before. Like, what's the game plan?
Well, we're seeing what's happening. The NBA has always been a players' league, and the NFL has always been a coaches' league. But a couple years ago, Odell Beckham got a shoe deal, and it's like, oh, we're seeing the NBAization of the NFL now. And so, by the way, celebrations were okayed last year. That was always something. So what you're seeing happen is the NFL is watching the increased popularity of the NBA, and the league, the NBA, has always empowered stars, and the NFL never did.
Right.
But the NFL now is like, okay, shoe deals. You can celebrate after touchdowns. So John is entering the league, Joy, in a cultural change with players. So not calling Khalil Mack, strong-arming, 10-year contract. It doesn't play. I said this the other day. It used to be that a coach 10 years ago could walk into a locker room and say, no politics. If a coach does that now, half the room thinks that's racist. So that's the world he enters. It's not about the schematics. John will figure that out. He's a smart guy.
Right.
That'll take him a while, but he'll figure it out. And it won't be relationships with his quarterback. He's great at that. But, man, the league has changed. The NFL is becoming a little more like the NBA. Not a bad thing, just a different thing for old school guys.
Well, I don't know that they have a choice anymore. Like,
that's right.
With social media, everyone has their own brand, and it's not something that's negotiable. It just is what it is. So you have to kind of embrace it. Charles Woodson did say that he has a DJ at camp, though. So he's trying.
He does? John does?
Mm-hmm.
He's got a DJ? Mm-hmm. DJ Khaled rhymes with salad?
I don't think that DJ Khaled is there.
Okay.
They should bring DJ Khaled in from Miami camp. Finally, the Jets have rookie quarterback Sam Darnold at training camp with his contract situation all sorted out now, and it hasn't taken long for the conversation to turn towards the competition between Josh McCown, Teddy Bridgewater, and Sam Darnold, and this is what Sam had to say about it.
Obviously, that's a coach's decision. The competitor in me, I want to start, but at the same time, it's about the team and whatever's best for the team. If Coach Bowles and Coach Bates feel like Josh or Teddy or myself, are best fit for the starting job, then that's what it is, and the team can respect it. And I think that's also part of the reason why it's never really awkward at all in the quarterback room. Me, Teddy, and Josh, we push each other every single day, but at the same time, we love each other, and we get after each other, and we're able to have some fun in the meeting room and in practice.
That's great quarterback speak out of Sam Darnold. It's really a nice thing to say. The reason that there's no tension, Sam, is because you're the starter. What is the version of this team where Sam Darnold is not the starter week one?
Oh, I don't think he's going to start week one.
What?
I don't. I think Teddy Bridgewater is going to start week one. I really do. I think the only quarterback that's going to start week one is Josh Rosen in Arizona. I think all the other rookies will not start.
Yeah, A.J. McCarron has come out taking first-team snaps now for the Bills.
I think Darnold starts somewhere. I think Josh Rosen starts and looks pretty darn good. Listen, all these quarterbacks went to teams for a reason.
Yeah, the teams were bad.
Or in Baltimore's case, they should be better and their quarterback's not delivering. So
but they didn't take Lamar Jackson high. He was the last pick in the first round.
Well, first round.
Okay, but it's not top 10.
Yeah, I don't think Darnold's going to start. I don't think I'd start in week one. He's only 21 years old. I would let Darnold sit there until Thanksgiving and figure out, oh, okay. I don't have any. In fact, I would start Darnold. When is their bye week? They have an early bye week, like week 5 or something. The Jets have a bye week. That's not a terrible time to start him. Give him 2 weeks to prepare for a game. That's not a terrible. You want to set these guys up to succeed. That's not a terrible time to start them after a bye week.
I mean, doesn't he have
week 11? So week 11, the Jets have a bye week. So I'd give him 2 weeks to be ready. That's when who would they play that week? Oh God, the Patriots.
Great plan.
It is at home. By the way, Jets generally play the Patriots at home. Tough.
Well, yes, because it's a division game. But I don't know. I think he should start.
All right. Joy Taylor with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Live
Coming
news.
up, it's one of the NFL's longest traditions, and I think it has to stop. That's next. Best for last in Los Angeles. Wrapping up a Friday, it's The Herd.
Want more Herd? The Herd streams 24 hours a day, 7 days a week within the iHeartRadio app. Search Herd to listen live or on demand whenever you like.
Sunday on Fox, it's episodes 3 and 4 of the exclusive documentary about Baker Mayfield, where he appears right here on The Herd to confront Colin Follow the NFL's #1 draft pick as he navigates his way through the complex world of professional football. All the way up, Baker Mayfield, Sunday at 3 Eastern on Fox, or stream it on the Fox Sports app.
Yeah. I'll tell you, there's a clip there where he's on our show, and he does a really good job. This is a clip you'll see if you watch this. They have multiple cameras. This was right before he came on our show. That thing must have gotten 5 million hits on our Facebook. Here it is.
I get to see my best friend today. I went on Colin Cowherd's show just to be myself. There's been a lot of skepticism about who I am as a person, and I wanted to address a lot of those issues that he keeps bringing up over and over again.
You got the hoodie? Undraftable. Quoted by Colin Cowherd. I'm going to leave this on his chair. Oh, it's dirty. Whatever. He doesn't need clean one. I knew he was a Sam Darnold guy.
Let's bring him on. Baker Mayfield. Look at this. He's got a support group.
Oh, I got something for you. Quoted by you, right? Undraftable?
That is great. Yeah. I have a general rule. Don't like my quarterback showing up on police video. Don't love this.
No, there's a lot of regret to it, but at the same time, that was a rude awakening, just very eye-opening for me.
By the way, that's the best answer you've given me in 10 minutes. That's what grown-ups say.
I appreciate
that. Makes me like you more.
I went on there to prove my point of, you said I was undraftable. Well, I went #1. I'm proud of who I am. I got what I wanted out of it.
That was good stuff.
I really think you should post a picture in that hoodie.
I probably should.
Well, first week when he starts.
I'll do that. Undraftable. All right, we call it best for last. Let's go.
After almost 3 hours, Colin apparently hasn't gotten to the point yet. Quit holding out on us, Cowherd. It's the best for last.
All right, Lamar Jackson played for the Ravens last night, debut. More bad than good, 4 for 10, had a pick, a little bit of running stuff. Exciting. It's fun to watch. He was fun to watch in college. He's fun to watch in the NFL. I think he's more of a project than a prospect, but, he's going to play eventually. Now, he's one of 15 quarterbacks to win the Heisman since 2000, 15 of them. 11 of 15 have played in the NFL. Now, Lamar and Baker haven't yet, and Eric Crouch and Jason White never took a snap. So here's the guys that won the Heisman in the last, since 2000, that have played in the NFL. Some, Cam Newton's obviously a big name. Johnny Manziel did not work. Troy Smith was a great college quarterback at Ohio State. That did not work. Chris Weinke, and not going to be an NFL quarterback. But Carson Palmer was excellent. Borderline Hall of Fame guy. Cam can play. Bradford, when he's healthy, can play. Jamison Mariota, not quite as good as I thought they would be, but they're fine. They can win games. Winston right now suspended. Tim Tebow, obviously, that, iconic. So we thought what we'd do is how good's Lamar going to be? We'll just do this. Again, here are the 11 Heisman-winning quarterbacks who have played since 2000. Let's give the average stats. We combined all of them. The hits, the misses, the busts, the near busts. This is the average of those 11 quarterbacks. They complete 61% of their throws. Their passer rating is about 85. They have 1.4 touchdowns a game and about 1 interception a game, and they win less than half of their games, and there is 1 playoff win in the career. So who would that be? So John Goulet comes out. It's going to give us 4 choices. On average, the Heisman quarterback, if you accumulate all the stats, is one of these 4 quarterbacks. John, who are they?
Okay. A, Andy Dalton. B, Kirk Cousins. C, Jay Cutler. Or D, Matthew Stafford.
Okay, Joy. So these are the 11 quarterbacks we're kind of projecting. On average, you win the Heisman. Now, Baker and Lamar won it. They have not played yet. Mm-hmm. But if you take the average over the last decade and a half, this is the average quarterback numbers you get. So give me the 4 quarterbacks again, John.
Andy Dalton, Kirk Cousins, Jay Cutler, or Matthew Stafford.
I want to go Kirk Cousins. I think I'm going to go Kirk Cousins.
I think I'm going to go with Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler did. Now, none of these guys, by the way, won a Heisman. That's not the point.
Right.
The point is take the average Heisman winner, and what does he compare to professionally? John, what is the answer?
Okay, so Joy went...
I went Kirk Cousins.
And I went Jay Cutler.
Colin got it. Jay Cutler has shockingly similar stats to our fake Heisman quarterback, Joe Heisman.
That's not great.
No, that's not great. That should make you never want to draft a Heisman Heisman winning
So those are
quarterback
Jay
ever.
Cutler's career numbers.
And I feel like I've disrespected Kirk Cousins also.
Yeah. Jay Cutler has a lot of talent.
You know, what does that mean?
I know. It doesn't really mean much.
Like, that's when we were talking earlier about the Dolphins and Gase getting the quote-unquote bad guys out, or the ones that are more individual guys. Gase brought Jay Cutler in. Jeez. I mean, granted, Tannehill was injured, but
not great. By the way, we had Eric Mangini, Jason McIntyre, Greg Cosell stop by today. It was funny because he watches. Yesterday when Greg Cosell was here after the show, he gave me 2 pamphlets, one for quarterbacks in college next year and one for wide receivers. He looked at 150 players. So what I get every year from like Greg is before the college year starts, he tells me who the NFL guys are going to like.
Right.
So college football, I'm not going to get into it now. They got about 3 quarterbacks. There's one at Oregon, one at Iowa, one at Michigan. Those are going to be the 3 big quarterbacks NFL people are going to like. But it's funny because I talked to Greg several times on the air, mostly off, about Sam Darnold. Now, of the 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round, I think Darnold is going to be the guy after 12 years that you're like, that's the best franchise quarterback. I don't think he has Andrew Luck's talent. I don't think he has Cam Newton's talent, though I think he'll be less emotional, less roller coaster. I don't see him. Now, when I say I think he's really good, what I'm saying is I think he's going to be the best quarterback in his division for a decade. And to me, that's a franchise quarterback. Are you the best quarterback? John Elway was the best quarterback in his division for 10 years. Dan Marino was the best quarterback. Tom Brady's the best quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback. I think Darnold will be the best quarterback in that division for 10 years. But Greg Cosell, say what? Oh, it's too long. Basically, Greg Cosell's takeaway on this, he's not Andrew Luck. His throwing motion has problems. The Jets don't have a quarterback coach. Only 3 teams in the NFL don't have a quarterback coach. And he thinks he's going to be really choppy because he's really young. And he makes a lot of mistakes. Now, that I agree with. He plays too fast and he's too reckless. But I also think he's going to get better coaching in the NFL. Like, I never felt Andrew Luck got better coaching in the NFL than college. I think he got better coaching with Jim Harbaugh and David Shaw than he does in the NFL. I think the coaching Darnold will get with the Jets is better than the coaching he got at USC. Good sportsmanship matters. That's why we're huge fans of Hyundai's new Shopper Assurance program. From flexible test driving to streamlined purchasing. Learn more. HyundaiUSA.com/Shopper Assurance. See you Monday.